OTB AM.
With Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
All right, you're very welcome along. I've no idea what day of the week it is. It's Tuesday? Tuesday, yeah. You're very welcome along to OTB AM. We're here with you all the way through until 10 o'clock this morning. Shane is here. Shane, how are you?
Morning. How are things?
Kathleen's here. Kathleen, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
A little lap of honour for our resident Arsenal fan this morning. Turns out everything's back. That's how you do it. That's how you pick your second/first team. You mix it up a little bit. You don't just load in everybody who hasn't played any football together for a month and then you romp home 3-0.
Yeah, I was slightly worried when Saka limped off just with the North London derby coming up this weekend, but we were all fine. We were all good. We won 3-0. First hour was a little bit worrying. I thought we were going to have to do one of those replays in an already packed schedule, but we got there thanks to El Neni and Nketiah, who are not two players that I'm normally like...
Yeah.
Thanks, lads. Although Nketiah this season has been quite good since
I was going to say,
Jesus' injury.
Is he not slowly ascending to cult hero status?
Slowly. I don't know if I go cult hero. He's slowly ascending to someone that I actually trust on the pitch, which for an Arsenal fan is actually quite an honour.
It took someone stepping up when Jesus was injured, and I think Nketiah has done that. His finishes last night were brilliant.
Oh, they were great.
The third goal, like the little cheeky dink. Very, very composed in front of goal is Eddie Nketiah.
This is the thing, though. I think with Nketiah, he's definitely a better finisher in front of goal than Jesus. I just think Jesus maybe offers a little bit more in live play at the moment to Nketiah, but also they're coming from two very different positions. Like they're at two very different stages of their career, so it's kind of what I would expect from both of them. And a very happy Kathleen would be Gabriel Jesus not injured and the two of them vying for that place and seeing how far he can like push Nketiah into maybe taking those great finishes and also a bit more in-play form and seeing how we can build that relationship, because that would be really good for the team. Because the thing that's always going to go wrong with Arsenal, I think, in this whole, are they going to win the league, where are they going to finish in the league, is depth. And we don't have a lot of that. And even seeing Emile Smith-Rowe come back last night was great for that. But we need to kind of challenge players a little bit more and kind of have those. Because once you go past the starting 11, you know, fair enough, it wasn't our normal starting 11 last night, but you're playing Oxford United. You don't really worry about that. You do worry about it when you're playing City or United or some of the other top teams. I nearly named Chelsea there, but don't have to do that anymore.
Forget about them.
You'll have to excuse me. Apart from knowing that Stevenage are playing Stoke in the next round, I blanked out the rest of the draw.
Oh, well, Arsenal away to... is it away to Manchester City?
Yeah, away to City.
I mean, talk about that. City will have had to have played Chelsea and Arsenal to get to the fifth round, which isn't exactly ideal for them.
Feel so sad for them.
I mean,
Chelsea is a handy draw.
Exactly. Turned out it was perfect.
Yeah, as it turns out. Arsenal's next three games are Spurs, United and City. So I think we'll know a lot more about where Arsenal are at.
Yeah.
And I feel like Nketiah's performance last night, like Mikhailo Mudryk appears like he's coming from Shakhtar. So I mean, Nketiah, he's timing his goals very, very well. He knows his pressure's on him.
Appears if he's coming.
See, the thing is, Mudryk wants to come. He's always said he wants to come to Arsenal.
Yeah.
Shakhtar are so determined that they are going to get their 100 million for him. And Chelsea have also said quite a few times that they're so eager to just disrupt this entire process. I actually think they're concentrating more on disrupting this process than they are on what they're doing on the pitch. But I don't know. Like the last couple of days, it's stalled quite a lot. I really don't think Arsenal are going to fork out the sort of money that Shakhtar want. So, and Arteta said, it was either after this game or after the game, and probably at the weekend, that it's kind of up to the player now. Like if he really wants to come, he needs to make Shakhtar very aware of the fact that he wants to come. And I think a lot of people are waiting to see what team Shakhtar name at the weekend and whether he's in it or not. And they're kind of using that as a bit of a gauge.
Whether he starts waving goodbye to the fans.
Yeah,
you always
exactly.
get these January indicators, don't you, of a transfer impending.
Yeah, so I don't know. We'll see how it goes, because they were also up for João Felix, but that seems to be gone as well. So,
well, João Felix is going to Chelsea.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to Chelsea.
It's rumoured to Chelsea.
You'd wonder why at this stage.
I know.
Well, obviously the money is amazing.
And you're starting at a mid-table team. You know, you can work
exactly.
your way up.
Yeah. You know, you can be the Messiah.
Yeah, 100%. 10th place. I mean, and Chelsea are going to get knocked out of the Champions League, you'd imagine, by Dortmund. Well, if they keep playing the way they're playing.
I don't know. I mean, who knows? You know, this could be one of the great smash and grab seasons where Chelsea remember that they're a Champions League winning squad and team.
Nah. Is Potter a Champions League winning manager?
I don't know what Potter is anymore.
I don't think he even knows what he is anymore.
I think that was always going to be the path he went when he went to Chelsea. Like, everyone said that maybe he would bed in well when he went to Chelsea. I never thought he was going to bed in well. I think he needs time. He's like Arteta in what he's done with Arsenal, in that he needed time to go into that squad, have a couple of seasons, build the team he actually wants, get rid of the dead weight that he doesn't want, and then go from there. But I don't think that's really what Bowley wants in a manager, because he's just like, even Bajie, that was like, what, a 7.5-year contract for him? That's ridiculous. Like, how often do you get 7.5-year contracts these days?
I'm fairly sure that's about writing that contract off over that period of time, and so therefore it gives them continued flexibility to keep signing players. So I think that's all that's about. And it's going to be very interesting to see if that is followed by other clubs, because what's your motivation to work very hard if you're going to be paid your massive salary for 7.5 years? Let's wait and see what impact that has on players. So it's definitely a double-edged sword in keeping the financial flexibility and then also keeping the player motivated to work, because I mean, you've just won the lottery forever.
I think at Chelsea there is the chance for a turnaround for Potter, like Arteta. If you remember, one of my brother's friends tweeted a few years ago, he's an Arsenal fan, massive Arsenal fan. It was after a bad Arsenal result and a bad run of form. Arteta, I'm sorry, you were a great player, but you got to go. And then the other day,
so you bring it up all the time.
100%. Last weekend,
turned it into an NFT.
Last weekend he tweeted again. He said, "Mikel, I've said some bad things about you in the past, but you're at the wheel. Let's go." So there's a chance that Potter can have the same.
Fickle football fan change his mind as soon as team gets success. I think the thing about Todd Bowley is that sacking Potter now. First off, they paid 15 million quid apparently to Brighton, and they gave him a 5-year deal. So that's at 15 million a year. Am I right? I was a 12 million a year. So it's something. So that'd be like 75 million quid. Gone. You're like, oh my God. It's pretty embarrassing, even for the billionaires who are totally rich. And again, it's murky who has all the money in Chelsea. But I think they're going to give him the time, because it's just what happens largely in American sport, is that you get your guy, he does what you want as the owner. And Potter's not saying no to any of this. Potter's not saying, no, I don't want João Felix. I mean, I have about 12 players who play exactly the same as him in the same position, who are all playing shite at the moment, especially your boy Pulisic. I'm looking at you, Bowley. Why are you making me pick him? Come on. Is his dad,
awesome. He's
are
awesome.
his parents winding you up? Has he got Gio Reyna's parents in your ear? Would you like to sign Reyna? Oh, I would not, thank you. I'm going to draw the line at that. So I don't know. I think that Potter seems to be the perfect manager at this stage, but he needs to show some teeth and start.
I think they'll give him the season. I don't think they're going to get rid of him now, but I could easily imagine it going into halfway through next season, and if things aren't improving, I think Bowley will fold, because I also don't think he wants to be made a bit of a laughingstock, and that's kind of what's starting to happen, in the sense that, even Pep's comments after the last game against City, telling him, oh, Bowley, you should give Potter a bit of time, it takes some time to become a proper elite manager. Look at what I did, but also I had Messi. You don't want other managers taunting you or your club in that way. That's the worst place you want to be, bar bottom of the table, of course.
Yeah, you don't want to be patronised by your rivals. It does look like he stepped aside as the sporting director and has now put a structure in place. So we'll come back to that, and we'll do some more digging on the Chelsea hierarchy over the next while. At 7:38 this morning, here's what's going up between now and 10 a.m. John Hartson's going to join us at 8:05 to look back on the career of Gareth Bale. Colm Boyle and Andy Moran are going to join us to look back on the career of the greatest player never to win in All Ireland. Was he the greatest non-dub over that whole last decade and a half? Was there anybody from Kerry who you'd have ahead of him? Because it's the end of Gooch, so that doesn't count.
I don't think so. I don't think there's anyone that can.
Well, you can give us your thoughts in the comments. John Duggan is going to join us then, and then after that, Sarah Rowe is going to join us. Sarah Rowe is making a late bid for inclusion in the Republic of Ireland World Cup squad. Sam Mulroy is going to join us at 9:10 to give us some fitness advice / talk to us about being the best forward outside of the first division in the country at the moment, and then some James Horan goodness, reflecting on Lee Keegan at 9:30 this morning. At 7:40 though, let's turn to a couple of big stories. The first one is from the American investigation into coaching. What was the official terminology around this?
So there was 2 reports. One was into abuse and one was into misconduct in the league. So we had the first one, which was done by a former Deputy Attorney General, Sally Yates, which came out about God, 6-7 months ago now. And then obviously the second one came out just before Christmas there, and that was probably the one that caught a lot more Irish attention, because Vera Pauw was mentioned in it for alleged misconduct in the league. She has strongly denied any of the misconduct, and she has released a very strong statement. She gave a press conference. She did an exclusive podcast with Nathan, which you can get on all the Off the Ball channels, talking through her side of the story. But what came out last night was kind of the repercussions of those reports. So the NWSL has banned 4 coaches, Paul Riley, Christy Hawley, Rory Dames and Richie Burke. And they kind of, in the way that we said when the last report came out, that they didn't really put a level to the different levels of allegations, you know, they just kind of almost put them all in at one. They've actually kind of leveled it out here. So anyone who was permanently excluded, they're a level 1 violation. So then Vera Pauw is mentioned in level 3, which says that her future employment in the NWSL is conditional. So should she ever want to be employed in the league again, or should a club want to employ her, it says that at the satisfaction of the commissioner and in her complete discretion, Vera Pauw must acknowledge wrongdoing and accept personal responsibility for inappropriate conduct, participating in training, and demonstrate a sincere commitment to correcting behaviour. So yeah, there's various different levels to this. Obviously, we have coaches that have been completely banned. You have ones that their return is conditional. From some of the other conditional returns, coaches can't return for 2 years and they have to undergo more severe training. Some of the clubs have also been sanctioned. The sanctions are up to like $1 million, and also systemic changes. So this is kind of I suppose, one of the final steps in the process in terms of actually handing out, after saying, okay, this is what happened, now here are the things that you have to do to actually make the league right again, I suppose is probably the best way to put it. But I don't think it's the last we'll hear about it, because obviously, as we have said, Vera Pauw has strongly denied any of the allegations against her, so there could be more to come from the story.
Yeah, I'm sure, again, I think a lot of people were confused by everything being bundled in together, and so these things aren't really on the same scale or spectrum. You know, there's vast differences between the accusations against one group of people and another group, and so, you know, again, we'll wait and see if Vera Pauw has any response to what has broken over the last 24 hours. The FAI came out very strongly immediately after the first one, and they defended her. So I don't know. Maybe Vera Pauw never wants to go back to work in the States again, but if she does, she would certainly have a case about the process that was involved here, and an opportunity to make her side more better known. That's one thing we want to talk about. We want to talk about this week's episode of Koi Gig. You've got a very special guest who has a fairly remarkable story and a very important story to tell.
Yeah, so we are back after our Christmas break with Reading captain and Scotland international Emma Mitchell. Emma played with our own Emma Byrne at Arsenal for many years, but she had a baby in November 2021, kind of end of November 2021. And basically the whole podcast is her talking about the experiences of being a pro footballer and being pregnant and then also having a baby. And some of her stories are just, they're harrowing. Like, if they were happening in a workplace outside of sport, you'd be like, this doesn't seem legal, this doesn't seem right. You know, one of the examples she gave us was that if she wants to return to work and like not breach her contract, you have to go back after 14 weeks, which is insane when you think about going through the process of having a child. You know, no matter what sort of birth you have, that's going to be an incredibly traumatic process on your body. And then after 14 weeks, you're expected to be back on a pitch, running around, heading a ball, taking hits. And she was just saying that if she was to get pregnant again now, she doesn't know if she could actually continue on her career because it's been made so difficult by various different policies that are in place. They're just not suited to women. So it's a really, really interesting chat. Something that isn't talked about a lot here. It's talked a lot more about in America. Like, in some players, in certain clubs, it's written into their contracts that they can avail of fertility services, or they can avail of certain pregnancy benefits to help support players, because obviously if you finish a playing career in your mid-30s, it can be a little bit harder to get pregnant, or that avenue might not be as easy as it would be if you were starting a family a little bit earlier. So yeah, she was brutally honest on the podcast, and it's a difficult listen at times, but also a really important one and a really important conversation to keep having in the general context of how do we keep women in sport, and how
is it legal for a contract to say you have to be back at work after, what was it, 14 weeks?
Yeah, so if you get complete pay up to 14 weeks, and then depending on the club you're at, sometimes you can get half pay a little bit afterwards. But what she was saying is that the league policy is just 14 weeks. So if you don't come back after that time, you're risking your contract and you're risking your place on the team, which is, you know, I mean, to me, when I was listening to it, it sounded like frustrated employment to me, because it's making it really impossible. And I think she had a great line where she said, you know, your body is your job when you're a footballer, so you have to look after it and you have to care for it. But this is a situation where a lot of things are completely out of your control and there isn't anything you can do. And I think she made the right point that it's just a case of research. Like, you probably could go back to some sort of training after 14 weeks if you wanted to, if you chose to, but the research has to be done into what that is and how you start it and how lightly you have to go. Like, a lot of this conversation was started when Alex Morgan had her baby Charlie, with her being like one of the biggest sports stars in the world. But even for her, when she started back playing, it took her over a year of actually playing games to become the player she was, and then she was better than ever. But again, it's so different for every player. So like, how I think at the moment it's very much left up to the WSL and the separate leagues to make their policies, and then within clubs they can add on to it, but that's not really acceptable. It needs to be much wider than that.
All right, so the podcast is available today. Is out already? Was that yesterday?
It will be available this morning before 10:30 across any of the normal places you get your podcasts.
All right, very good. That's this week's episode of Koi Gig with Emma Mitchell, and it's a big story, and obviously it's one that we'll continue to follow here on OTB AM. It's 7:47 this morning. A reminder, we're brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. The wheels will come off Arsenal season after 0 from 9 points in the next 3 games, says Bobby Dwyer, in brackets. Our resident Spurs fan, and the Arsenal fans will be calling for him to be sacked again. I don't think anybody's going to be calling for Mikel Arteta to be sacked at any point this season, even if they lost every game for the rest of the year. Like, really? I mean, that's obviously not going to happen.
No.
I've been hearing that for 5 months, Bobby, says Cian in the comments as well, defending the
I can't see them. I can't see them losing those 3 games. City, Spurs, United. I just don't think. You know, the way they're playing, it's hard to see them.
Well, they owe Man United. I mean,
they do.
Yeah.
United got a win in that game when they probably maybe a draw was more of an accurate representation of the game itself at Old Trafford that day. But win's a win. And certainly Arsenal want their slice of revenge. They could be a good cup team as well, Arsenal. You know, I know it's City in the FA Cup 4th round, but they've always been a good FA Cup team. Why not play the big teams early, get them out of the way? And maybe Pep will rest Haaland and De Bruyne again, and
we might, you
never know.
Right, so Lee Keegan's place in the Pantheon. Where is it? Where does he stand? This is one of those difficult ones. We're going to get to it with a couple of his former teammates a little bit later on. Colm Boyle and Andy Moran. Colm Boyle's already been on local radio saying he's the greatest Mayo footballer ever. Kieran Shannon in the papers today saying he's the greatest Mayo footballer ever. I think Willie Joe Padden has also said he's the greatest Mayo footballer. So that bit, I think we're probably all in agreement that he's right there, if not that. But like, where does he stand versus those dubs? Who's the best of the dubs? Even I'd say McCarthy, but
of that era.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's. He's one of the greatest players of all time, isn't he?
Well, I mean, that's no good. That's a very, that's too bland.
You want hyperbole?
Come on. No, I want facts.
You want facts?
One of.
Well, there's no fact. It's a subjective conversation.
I want give me the facts, Shane. Drop me some truth bombs.
Well, I mean, in terms of the greatest to never win in All Ireland, he probably is the number one. I mean, I'm obviously going to
didn't see Dermot Early Senior, so I don't know.
No, and Conor McManus, from my perspective, I'm going to throw him and Nudie Hughes in potentially as Monaghan being one of the candidates that, of course, never won.
So we have.
Well, McManus is in the top 5 players to ever win.
A bit of poison in the system, unfortunately. There, interference coming through. What?
Yeah.
Cameron's here. Cameron, you're a Mayo man.
Yeah. Feeling terrible today.
Sorry,
bereft. Still not to tell this story, but anyway, I will. We used to have a shop down in Mayo, in Castlebar, and my mum would hate All-Ireland season every year because basically if Mayo got to the final, that's 3 Sundays where we'd do no business. She'd love when we'd have the Connacht because the town would be packed, but she hated the All-Ireland series, and then Mayo did her another favour and decided we're only going to do qualifiers for the next half decade in the...
they made that decision.
They made that executive decision. We don't like that shop. We're just going to do that to them. And so it was even quieter. But she really disliked the kind of feeling, the week-long unofficial mourning that would come the week after we'd lose the
Also not good for business.
Also not good for business.
All right, I thought people would consume to try and ease the pain like we all do with our lives.
No.
Is that not how capitalism works?
No.
Buy yourself out of this problem.
Yeah, fair.
All soup.
Preferably on credit.
1930s Great Depression era type fare. And I haven't been in Mayo for over a year now at this stage. But I can only imagine the sense of loss and grief that's permeating all the towns there today.
Stop all the clocks. What's the rest of the poem?
I don't know. I only did English in university. How would I know?
It's in 4 Weddings and a Funeral.
You might have studied that one in English. In
No,
university.
that
Probably did, given
classic of the literary canon.
hipster bullshit that they have these days. Go on.
But yeah, I was talking to a few of my mates, and it sort of felt like we knew this was kind of coming. We didn't want to believe it. We thought something would step in. I now know what it feels like, what it felt like in like July 1939, when you really thought maybe something had happened that'd stop all this. But the inevitable happened, and yeah, it's a sore feeling.
He's one of the great big game players. I'd put him as the Partee Sung of Gaelic games. The Partee Sung was the man that Alex Ferguson always threw into the big matches.
What? No. I'm not having that at all.
Why?
Partee was relatively shite.
No, he wasn't.
Lee
relatively
Keegan was
shite.
absolutely sensational.
No.
Partee was like...
They're both brilliant.
You're all like
I
Man
think
United
no.
bias. Partee wasn't nowhere near the best Manchester United player. Not fit to lace the boots.
Whatever
of
Manchester, name it
about 7 or 8 of those players. Whereas this guy is the best player they had.
Yeah, there's a fundamental difference between
This
a
is like
big game.
this is a cross between Wayne Rooney and Roy Keane. What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the attack dog that did the job for you. Oh,
No,
Mark
no,
Michael.
this
Now,
is-
hold on.
This is
Hold on. Mayo are playing.
Baller of the Year
No, I know that.
on a team that lost.
Okay, I get that.
Overcoming the Dubs bias and the media to win it.
He was always the Mayo man used. Right, Mark Quinlivan, man mark Sean Kavanagh, take Enda Smith and still score 1-3 against him. He was always the man who did the job that the manager wanted him to do, which is my example. That Partee Sung was the same.
Yeah, and would
I'm not
Partee Sung
putting them
also
on
the
the
number
same.
10?
I'm not putting them on the same pedestal.
You just did.
We just all take a breath here. Come on.
No.
I'm saying.
Shocking.
I'm saying
Shocking.
they followed the managers.
If we could just cut a little igloo around him and poof, disappear.
Yeah.
They followed the manager's
I knew
orders
never
to
existed.
a T, and they're underrated potentially. As Lee Keegan is potentially underrated.
Is he?
I know he was Footballer of the Year, but I think we'll appreciate him more now that he's retired. I know we all appreciated him at the time, but we look back at his career even more so with honour and acclaim, I think.
Well, some of us, I guess. You clearly, Partee Sung.
I'm a fan of Partee Sung. I think he was brilliant.
I don't think it's the same ballpark at all.
Is that the hot take? I was expecting the cold take. Symbol
there's
there,
an
but-
opposite.
Yeah.
No,
God.
you know you get what I'm trying to say, I'm sure.
Nope.
All you...
Did we get to the end of your story? I'm not sure. Do we?
No, that was it. I was
Okay.
put across by this,
Go on.
horrible take.
Anyway,
Yeah.
you're finished.
Sorry?
Are you finished? Your story.
Oh, I'm finished my story.
Right.
Yeah. Thank
So you're
God.
here to do the top 5 moments in the Mayo journey. That Lee Keegan had. There's been a couple of these in the paper today. Yours has some overlaps with Maurice Brosnan's, but you've got your own. Come on.
Yeah, so I think I was reading Andy Moran's book yesterday just to kind of get a sense of the great man's view on it. He's kind of, that book is like the movable feast of Mayo GAA, where he's crossing over, obviously, with all these other greats. But he talks about his progress all the way up to 2015 was really when he arrived, but I think we can all agree 2017.
Sorry, this is getting good. Jesus, Shane, this is going to come up as a bad highlight for 2023 next December, says Shifty Lad. Lorky says, taxi for Shane. Ciara McDonald's better than Keegan. That's a hot take.
That's quite a hot take.
That's worse than... Sorry, I'm leaning... people are not understanding what I was trying to say here. Park Ji-sung followed the manager's orders to the nth degree, and he was a big game player. Lee Keegan's 7 championship goals all came in huge games for Mayo. My point was, Park Ji-sung and Lee Keegan are big game players, and they followed their manager's orders to a T. That's the only similarities. Can we all just relax, please?
Okay. I mean, that's like,
I don't know.
mediocre player did one thing once.
I'm not
Once,
comparing them. Of course, Keegan is on a pedestal above Park, relatively speaking.
Isn't
different
Parky Sung playing in the
sports.
Champions League final one of the great blots in Alex Ferguson's?
Not playing was one of the great blots. He
I
didn't
can't
play him
remember.
in the Champions League final, and he
No, I
regretted
can't-
it forevermore.
no. I don't think you're going to live this one down, Shane, to be honest.
I've explained now what I meant.
You can rescue this, Cameron, by getting us into the top 5 here. Come on.
Yeah, so 2017 was the year Lee Keegan, really it was his masterpiece. So that quarter-final, as you mentioned, the 1-3 against Roscommon, I think was absolutely fantastic.
Is this in the draw?
This is in the draw. So up to that point, Mayo had a really good habit at that point of literally matching the quality of their opposition, because they dumped out of Galway, obviously. They dumped out of Connacht by Galway. Needed extra time to beat Derry.
And that was Derry, the banter era.
Yeah, and blew a 5-point lead in the first half of extra time. Beat Clare and Ennis, and Keegan scores this absolutely beautiful point to the right of goal, just 20 metres out. It's absolutely class. You should really watch. If you can find it on YouTube, look at it. It's brilliant. Beat Cork by a point in the Gaelic grounds.
Also the banter era, Cork football.
And then Roscommon await them in the All-Ireland quarter-final. They've trounced Galway, a sorry-looking Galway in the Connacht final. And I've quotes from Andy Moran's autobiography on this. He said, "We were all over the place in that game, stuck to the ground. Roscommon have the run on us. Their backs are on top, preventing us from getting any easy possession and building scores. Their forwards do have the upper hand. We can't get to grips with their kick-out. We need someone to step up and drag us out of the hole we've dug for ourselves." On that dirty Sunday afternoon in a saturated Croke Park, Lee Keegan, playing midfield and marking Roscommon's best player, Enda Smith, drags us through. Lee just takes off, scoring 1-3 while completely taking Smith out of the game. Carried on Lee's back, we scramble a draw, and then in the replay they trounce Roscommon and obviously go on to that final. But come at the man, come at the hour.
I just don't understand how a player can man mark a player as good as Enda Smith and still score 1-3. Usually when you see a player man marking someone in a championship game, like Chrissy McCaig is great at it. There's some great man markers over the years. They're anonymous for the match, and that's what they want to be. You almost don't see them or hear of them in the entire game, but that means they've done their job. But Keegan was so good that he's man marking players of that calibre and still scoring 1-3, which is rare and remarkable.
That's it. And Andy talks about it in his book, saying Keegan's approach to man marking was just starve them of possession, be that thorn in their side throughout the game. And as you say, Enda Smith obviously scoring 1-3 while doing a perfect man marking job. The final in 2017, which we'll get onto, where he just keeps Kieran Kenny completely at bay and also scores one of the greatest goals in an All-Ireland final of all time.
So 2017, we've got the quarter-final. Have we done the rest of it? Are you doing the goal?
Yeah.
It's basically 4 of your 5 here are 2017.
Well, technically, the 5th is 2017/2022.
Okay.
But yeah, we have to mention the goal. Keegan had scored a goal in the final the year before, but I think that was kind of tarnished by him getting a black card late in the first half.
And when the black card was so stupid that was like... Yeah.
We'll get Maurice Deegan back on to explain that one.
What? Anyway.
It was a bad decision. Yeah,
It was,
for sure.
yeah. So it kind of, we did lose that 1 point, but you think if Lee Keegan had played that whole game, who knows what could have happened. But 2017 final, Con gets that early goal, 19 seconds in. Mayo were leading at half time, and then Dublin come out, kick 3 points early in the second half. And then Keegan, it's just beautiful. Killian O'Connor passes to Andy Moran, does an about turn, sees Lee Keegan, Carlos Alberto style, marching towards goal, gets the ball, slots it past Cluxon. He knows how to do that, obviously. And yeah, again, one of the early men. We nearly got there that day, and we probably should have on the basis of that goal. I think it's just such a special moment. But yeah, which kind of segues into my other one, which is Lee Keegan's other famous contribution to that final.
Was there something else that happened? I can't remember.
Actually, yes, Shane.
Was it?
It's 116 apiece.
Here we go.
Dublin have a free to win it. Up steps Dean Rock, who is absolutely not going to miss, right?
No, never does.
Hang on a second. You're Lee goddamn Keegan, the true master of the body check, the jersey pull, the murmuring of bitter somethings into the victim. I mean, target man for the afternoon. You've mastered the art of defending. This is the greatest chance you might ever have to beat your bitter rivals on the great stage. Force them to the replay at least. So he takes the stealthiest missile on his person, his GPS tracker. It's followed you your entire journey throughout the final, the championship, and now to sporting immortality. He flings it towards the boot of Dean Rock just as he's about to step up. You can see it here. You can see that projectile back into the left.
It's closer than I even remembered. It's closer to the ball than I even remembered. It can't have not been right in his eye line. Like,
look
it was
how close
right there.
he gets to Dean Rock as well. It's ludicrous.
I think it shows you how clued in or how zoned in a player taking a free kick is, and it's the same probably for a fly half in a big rugby match. You're in a different realm, different ether when you're stepping up to take a ball. Anything, someone could blare a horn in the distance, you wouldn't hear it. Anything could happen. You're just somewhere else, and I think Dean Rock was somewhere else when that was happening.
And it's those fine margins, like, you know.
This was for 3 in a row.
This is for 3 in a row, yeah. And obviously Dean Rock kicks it and they win. But, you know, smart bit of, you know, his genius has no bounds.
Yeah.
If
If that had been missed, we'd have been talking about that forevermore. We still do talk about the GPS, but imagine he'd missed it as a result.
Imagine it goes to a replay and you're not allowed to have any GPS trackers, which would be an incredible GAA move.
The GPS, it's at the top of the back as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you would have had to reach back and rip it off and
Subtly.
some work.
I want to see footage of him taking it and going, I know what to do here.
Yeah,
The Zapruder film, basically.
It's basically the Zapruder film, yeah.
John Claffey says that comment will hurt Lee Keegan more than losing the All-Ireland, lads. Shane should have just said he's a good utility player, except he wasn't a good utility player. He was great. Jimmy Armstrong says, in fairness, Park Ji-sung won as many All-Irelands as Lee Keegan. Here comes the dubs. Danny Mack says, Ji-sung, Lee Keegan, I ain't getting it even with the explanation. Stick to Nudie Hughes, boy.
Here.
And Supercan354 says, what is this Park Ji-sung disrespect, lads? I mean,
I meant it as the utmost compliment.
well, it failed.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying Park Ji-sung ever won a Ballon d'Or, but I'm saying he was an excellent player who did his job and will be remembered very, very fondly.
Sounds like you know he's watching.
Richard Redball says, are we forgetting that he was part of the biggest group of bottlers football has ever seen? And Griff says, Mayo shoulda, woulda, coulda. Stand up for them, Cameron.
They all make very valid points. But
No, they don't.
He hasn't been in Mayo for a year, he said, so he's already...
Exactly. You must
it's starting. I'm starting to lose. Yeah,
You can't be
I don't
doing
even
that.
know what Supermax tastes like anymore.
You can't be doing that. Well, they've got one on O'Connell Street.
That's
for
true.
You.
That is true.
You're turning into a Southside wanker, are you?
I don't know. It always.
Your true cultural identity.
Yeah. Look, what can I say? I'm a Bunsen boy now. I don't know. I always feel like Mayo's best performances that year came a game early. In all of those, and like you can talk about this, like the semi-final against Dublin, where they kind of Dublin paid back their debt. But that was an excellent performance, and then we didn't turn up at all against Tyrone. It was the same. Like you can talk about the 2017.
Came a year early, you mean?
No. Like as in came a game early. I think Mayo played better in the semi-final against Kerry.
He should have won Footballer of the Year in 2017. Like Kieran McGeary won it, but I don't think anyone would have. Was it 3 times he was nominated for Footballer of the Year,
Yes.
and he won it once? He should have won it for 2021. I get the whole argument that they try and maybe and give it to the county that wins the All-Ireland, which is fair enough. Tyrone had a brilliant year, but I think even Kieran McGeary that year would have been like, yeah, Lee Keegan was.
I'd forgotten those 2 semi-finals, actually. They beat Kerry after a replay in the semi in Croker. The answer to the whole, they never won All-Ireland, is like they've literally come up against the greatest football team of all time.
Yeah. Bad time.
And that's what stopped them. It's and they drove them further than anybody thought that they could be driven. And nobody else drove them anywhere close to that, except Kerry once at the very end when they were up against history to try and win the 5 in a row. And even then, with 14 men, they were able to manage their way through the situation and just keep Kerry at bay. No one drove them the way.
Through the forehead of that particular bull. Like, you know, that we ended that 45-game unbeaten run that Dublin had in the championship.
And he was always, Lee Keegan, the man who marked the top. So Diarmuid Connolly was always, he was always given that task, and he matched Connolly for scores. 1-3, I think they both scored against each other, or 1-4 in all those games. Similar to how Park Ji-sung was always given the job of Messi. He man-marked Messi a number of times in matches. So if Messi is Diarmuid Connolly,
If Ger Connolly's Messi, is he?
If Messi is Ger Connolly, then Parchi Sung is.
So
is
where
Lee
does
Keegan.
where does Lee Keegan stack up against those great dubs though? Like power rank the best footballers of the Mayo Dublin rivalry.
So of that decade, where does he come? In top 10 footballers of that decade?
We can do 5 here. We've limited amount of time.
Yeah, I'd say he's probably just behind McCarthy. Fenton? Would you put Conn up there as well? No, he's probably third. I'd probably just put McCarthy and Fenton. If you were to, obviously they're different positions, so it's tough to compare. But maybe he's in the top 3 footballers of that decade. I don't think anyone would disagree necessarily, unless there's Dublin fans watching maybe. But where would you lads have him?
I'd put him there. I'd put him ahead of Conn, alright. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. He loses Conn to score that point in the semi-final against Dublin.
Jack McCaffrey's obviously up there as well.
Yeah, and when are we saying that the Clifford era starts?
Fair point. Yeah.
I don't know.
He's more the second half of that decade anyway,
aren't decades measured in 10-year eras arbitrary? Isn't it the Clifford era now?
18, isn't he, Clifford?
Well, Clifford he's had 4 All-Stars in successive years. So, in his first season, he wasn't as good as he is now, obviously, because he hadn't quite got the physical gift. He was still only a child.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. You forget how young he is.
Yeah. At least Lee has an All-Ireland with Westport. Pity he couldn't go on and win with Mayo, says Michael. And that was your 5th highlight.
Yeah, well, I was between that and then I thought it was a good tee-up for winning the Mayo senior football title this year. Westport have been on a bit of a journey. They were relegated in 2014 to intermediate and then spent a few years there. Keegan and Kevin Keane inspired them to the 2017 All-Ireland intermediate hurling or football final. They teeter on the brink of relegation in 2018 and 19, get to a semi-final in the seniors and lose to Brafey and Belmullet respectively in 2020 and 2021, the beaten finalists eventually. But this year they did it and kind of did it against the odds. I think especially in that final against Ballina, you would have backed Ballina to get the job done, but they went and done it. And those pictures of Lee at the end lifting up the trophy and his passion for Westport, and he's played every single sport in Westport, obviously rugby being another prominent one, but there's a real pride of community with Lee as well that I think we forget. He pours his heart and soul into absolutely every endeavour he takes, and it usually stems from his pride for his community and his team.
I did think there was a couple of seasons at the end of his career where he could have played as like a forward coming on in the second half of games and just legging it and seeing what damage you can do.
That's always the debate, isn't it?
As a free radical.
If they'd let him off the leash,
well,
how much damage could he have done?
Pick him as a half forward with almost no defensive responsibilities. Okay, you've got your usual half forward, blah blah blah. Okay, I know all the coaches out there are like, half forwards are the most defensive position in the field. Yeah, whatever. Pick a corner forward then and say, okay, you're not supposed to defend. Do a little bit, but when you get back there, like everybody has to give you the ball, and we're just going to see what chaos can ensue. But maybe there's no room for chaos in the modern game. I don't know.
I think a lot of people would have been surprised maybe at the time because they're thinking, right, he has a lot more to give. But the 2 games, I was at his last Mayo game. A lot of people were that quarter-final defeat to Kerry last year. Disappointing. They were pretty poor. James Horan's interview afterwards was fairly self-explanatory. They just didn't turn up on the day. So that would have been sticking in Lee's head as something, you're committing for so many months and then you just go out with a whimper like that. And then the Westport win. I mean, to go out in a high at club level. I like to think of Lee this week just sitting in a pub somewhere in Westport and having his couple of pints if he's not doing his dry January and reminiscing and soaking it up because he's had an extraordinary career. And all these comparisons are moot. Where does he come in the top? It doesn't matter. He was brilliant. When I say he's underrated, he probably isn't underrated. We all appreciate how good he was. But my point is,
you're backtracking now.
No, but in a number of years' time, I think we look back and say, you know what, he was actually even better than we thought he was.
Yeah,
so
it's going to take a while to sink in. Yeah, just how much of a generational talent he was. And with Mullen gone this year, that's 2.
That's a big double whammy for
it. Really felt like this was the last dance for Mayo with Doherty and McLaughlin returning. But
now it's the last dance with it's an entirely new era, and it takes a little bit of the pressure off in that they don't have those 2 who are definitely potentially generational talents. We haven't quite seen how good Oisin Mullen could be. primarily because of injury over the last 12 months in particular. But all right, Cameron, that's a fair take. Mayor were Super 1 match and just a touch off in the final. The final against Tyrone was a mess. They were awful that day, says Griff. And Lee Keegan isn't underrated, says Conor Joyce. Very odd take. You're getting in the neck today.
I can take
It's
it.
at Shane Hannon 01 on Twitter.
Well, people are slagging me for new to use. They're throwing in Monaghanisms there. It's just stay away, please.
Yeah, it's
I can
harsh.
take it. I can take it.
It is harsh. There's a great picture in the Irish Times of him celebrating in front of the hill, having scored in the
One
All-Ireland
single
final.
Mayo fan.
Yeah.
One of the great photos.
They're looking away. They're like, who's,
Yeah. They can't make eye contact with him.
who's your man?
Well, I think the photo that will always stand out, I'm sure they have the photo, was the 2016 goal, the one where Fenton and McCarthy are in close vicinity and it's kicking it past Cluxton. Just like three of the great Dublin players, all in the one frame with Keegan burying the ball past them.
They can't
that will
stop
stand
him.
out.
Yeah. Things you love to see.
We're going to talk with Colm Boyle and Andy Moran in about 10 minutes time about this. If you've got views, we'd love to hear from you. 0879 180 180 is the WhatsApp number. Or of course you can always get us at Off the Ball AM on Twitter as well. A couple of other stories that are doing the rounds. Qatar and Spurs, we'll talk to John Duggan about that a little bit later on. They're talking about investing around $1 billion for a 25% stake. Spurs have denied that the conversations that they were having were anything to do with an investment. They're just good mates with these very rich people who are interested in buying into football clubs. Nothing to see here, folks. Nothing whatsoever. So don't be getting too carried away just yet. Gareth Bale obviously has retired in the last 24 hours, and it was a very good career Gareth Bale had. He managed to drag a not great Welsh team all the way to a semi-final in the Euros. True mark of greatness, that, and obviously the standout moments in Champions League finals, which is pretty good. And also he earned a lot of money playing football at a very high level.
The bicycle kick against Liverpool in the Champions League final is the greatest goal, isn't it? Oh, well, there was the one on the sideline for Barcelona in the Copa del Rey in 2014. Like, he's had some absolutely unbelievable. You forget some of the free kicks even he scored for both Madrid and Wales. But yeah, to take your country to the World Cup for the first time since 58, to take them all the way to the semi-finals of the Euros in 2016. There'll always be those breakout performances against Inter Milan in 2010 where he just like, to say he destroyed Maicon in the return leg was an understatement. And then the first leg is as complete a performance, or the first game against Inter is as complete an individual performance as you'll see in the Champions League. Complete dominance, and that was a good Inter team as well. That was 2010, so that's the year Inter going to win the Champions League.
It's 2020 or 2011?
It was around that time, so they're a pretty good team at that moment in time. Inter, he patriotic man as well. I know the Wales Golf Madrid thing is a bit of a joke. Look, he's a bit of a meme, Gareth Bale, because of the flag and because of the golf, and the fact that everyone's like, oh, he loves golf more than he loves football. It's a bit unfair. Look, you're allowed to like golf and also be a really good footballer. A very, very patriotic Welshman who always put them first. And the fact that he has 5 Champions League medals, probably could have won more trophies across his career, but for injury and the like. 33 seems quite a young age to have retired for a man of his skill, but you look at the number of appearances he's made over the last number of years and it's just not at the level that it needs to be at. So we probably thought this is a pretty good time to go out, and what a career.
We're going to get to John Hartson in just a moment. The other big news over the last 24 hours is that Roberto Martinez is going to be the Portugal boss. I was very surprised by this. I definitely thought that Roberto Martinez wasn't going to get no chance at that level of international football.
He's got away with golden generations, Ger.
Portugal have a lot of good young players.
Another man that's become a meme, I think, Martinez. He's a bit of a joke, a laughing stock, isn't he?
Yeah,
which is, again, a little bit unfair. Did he win an FA Cup with Wigan?
Yeah, and
it wasn't terrible with Belgium what he did. They underachieved, no doubt.
Well, they beat Brazil in a World Cup.
Yeah.
A World Cup ago, and that was the time to
push on.
Yeah, but fair play to him, because that's a really good job.
He's quite a good agent, I'd imagine.
Is he trying to just get out of the Everton, like being in the running for the Everton job? Is that why?
Well, that's not going to come around again, right? Maybe they should have stuck with him.
Yeah, but there's Premier League jobs coming up all the time. I don't know if Martinez's name is ever going to be in the mix.
Well, not now. I mean, like, why would you? Why would you go to the bit where you get sacked every six months versus an international job where it's very hard to get sacked? Like,
yeah,
you're not getting sacked pre-tournament.
No,
especially in the Portugal gig, and you've got a really good chance of winning.
Well, you see, the level of expectation now in Portugal is you have to win the tournament, isn't it? Like, he's got to win the Euros in 2024.
Without Ronaldo, I wouldn't think so.
Well,
I think without Ronaldo,
if you reach a semi-final for any of these countries, really, especially, Portugal don't have a track record of winning loads of stuff.
We're giving out about Southgate getting to finals and semi-finals.
But Portugal's a smaller footballing country.
With as much expectation, I'd argue, except for maybe the press. Although the Portuguese press probably put pressure on that team as well. I don't know if a semi-final is good enough for these countries anymore. They're looking at the likes of Italy winning it and France getting to finals and winning tournaments.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the expectation now for a team like Portugal is go on and win it.
Certainly the opportunity is there, and I think that, but having said that, right, say you reach a semi-final or final, they're probably going to keep you on.
Yeah.
And that's another 2 years in the gig, as opposed to whatever mid-table Premier League team he's going to get, he'll get sacked after a run of 4 bad games.
Yeah.
Like, you're only ever 2 weeks away from getting sacked.
True. And at least if you lose a couple of games at international level, there's probably a few months before the next games. You've time to, I guess, fix things. It's a big job.
Yeah.
Has Martinez been linked with the Irish job before?
No, I don't
I
know.
don't think so.
I think everyone has at some point.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But
Lee Keegan probably has.
yeah. You know what's going to happen? Ronaldo's going to retire from international close to Euro 2024 if he doesn't make it that far. And they're going to go on and win it.
Oh, is he not retired?
He's still going, I think.
Is he for...
Yeah, well, he hasn't. He certainly hasn't.
Martinez is like, no thanks, we're moving on.
I don't know if he'll have the final say. Could be the Portuguese FA and Cristiano who have the say there. He seems to have lots of say and sway.
Well, he got dropped, so that was it.
Yeah.
Right?
And they started playing better. Shock horror. I don't know. I think he'll give it one last shot, Ronaldo, at Euro 2024. I'd be surprised if he didn't. There's the Nations League,
I
of
think
course.
chickens have already come home to roost on Ronaldo, even in Portugal.
Yeah,
They
possibly.
know that, he's finished.
His last game, or his next game, for his first game for Al Nassr is going to be that PSG friendly, which will be the last ever time, potentially, Messi and Ronaldo
On the
face
same
off
pitch.
on the same pitch. So
I'm sure there'll be loads of... well, is Messi not a Saudi Arabian ambassador?
yeah, well, true. Yeah, they'll concoct some sort of.
I didn't realise this, but there's like loads of videos of Leo Messi in Saudi Arabia doing Saudi Arabian tourist activities. Have you seen these?
I don't think so.
Well, the ads run on loads of the free games that my kids play, and I was like, where did these windows that are open on my computer come from? And it's Leo Messi wearing one of those things,
yeah,
and he's
yeah.
like, he's at a, there's like him being dancing in the middle of stuff, but there's loads of different ones, and you can have this Leo Messi experience for whatever price. The price is obviously in is it reals? What's whatever the currency is?
Dirhams?
And I was like, this is like he's fully invested. So why would he not end up playing there? And why would they not end up playing each other for the same amount of money?
Well, yeah, fair point. Fair point.
I mean, I think our Eurocentric view of the world, but like I think there's probably going to be a Messi versus Ronaldo every year, 3 times a year, 4 times a year for 4 or 5 years, where they're both picking up, 120, 140, 150 million a year.
It's fair. I saw Ronaldo's had to get special dispensation from the Saudis to live in the same home as his wife. Of course, under Saudi law, that wouldn't necessarily be allowed. So I don't know. It's bizarre. Will Messi end up there? Possibly. I'd be interested to see where does Messi want the World Cup to be in 2030? Like, is he pushing all the way for the Saudis, or is he Argentina, Uruguay? Is it 2-country bid or is it a 3-country bid?
It's 3-country bid.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. OTB AM brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. I'm delighted to say we've got John Hartson with us to reflect on the career of Gareth Southgate. John, it's a sad moment, really. Of Gareth Bale, sorry, Gareth Bale, of course, not Gareth Southgate. It's a sad moment when it comes to an end like this, but I guess you guys probably were prepared for it, or were you?
I think so. I think, it's one of those with international players. You almost retire yourself. It's not like playing for the club side where you're on a contract and you have to keep going. And, he's done everything he's needed to do in the game. And if he feels that he's hit this peak and he's give everything, and he's at a stage now where it is maybe he thinks that he can't hit the heights that he hit sort of a year ago or 2 years ago, then he's decided to call it a day. So it wasn't really a surprise for me. I just feel in the last 2 games I've seen him, he's not been as dynamic as he previously has been. Talking about the World Cup, he wasn't really that fit in the World Cup. So I wasn't surprised, and to be honest with you, I'm expecting probably another couple of senior players in the Welsh camp to basically follow suit over the next few months.
We'll talk about the highs in a moment, but just to it seems like over the last couple of years, the injuries really started to have an impact. When you think about his spectacular athletic gifts, it was one of the main attributes that he had was being able to physically protect himself, get away from the opposition, outpace people, outmuscle people. Once that started to diminish, then he just couldn't do the things that he was capable of doing when he was genuinely world class.
Yeah, well, that's the type of player Gareth was. He was very dynamic. He was like a Porsche. He was 1 to 7 in 30 seconds. That's the type of player he was. He could play the ball past a player and then show the defender a clean pair of heels. His game was all about pace, setting off, leaving the defender standing. Technically, you never really lose that technical ability. He scored 2 goals against Austria, and then he got the winning goal helped by a deflection from Yarmolenko against the Ukraine to get Wales through to the World Cup. He's had an extraordinary career, and I just think when you lose them assets that you had previously, and that's what got him to the very top of the game, at a world-class level, playing at Real Madrid, probably in the top 4 or 5 players in the world when he was starring for Real Madrid. When he first went there, in the first 2 or 3 seasons he was there. Remember, he was 9 seasons at Real Madrid, scoring over 106 goals for them, winning 5 Champions League winners' medals, Spanish Cups, other sort of cups as well. The boys had an extraordinary career, and he was such a unique talent. And it's his decision to retire. And as I said, I wish him well.
A very patriotic figure as well, John. We were kind of joking this morning about and it's almost become a meme. The whole Wales Golf Madrid flag that used to come out, but really, really always did put Wales first, and that's probably what I guess made Wales fans love him all the more.
Yeah, well, he's iconic. He's right up there. He's right up there amongst the greats. The issue with that flag was, I can explain that flag, when they qualified for the World Cup, that flag, the boys were going around the pitch, Cardiff City Stadium, and that flag was handed to one of the players, and then basically the lads were posing with the flag, and Gareth just happened to jump in the photo. It wasn't particularly planned or nothing like that. That just came off a fan. So basically, I know Gareth got a lot of stick for that. But he was always there. He always turned up. Yourself. You follow the Republic of Ireland and other nations and everything else. He always turned up, friendly matches, and he made such a huge difference. He was Wales' go-to man. He was their talisman, and. I would arguably go to say that if Gareth Bale, wasn't within our ranks, the Welsh ranks, we might not have had the success that we've had in the last 6 or 7 years, reaching 3 major tournaments. He's been that good and that important for the other younger players that have come through to see Gareth Bale. He's such a humble man as well. He doesn't turn up with a big entourage and 6 or 7 of his mates around him, and he doesn't give it the big I am. He's Gareth Bale. He's a proud Welshman, and every time he's gone out on that pitch for Wales, he's exceeded all expectation of him. Obviously, in the World Cup, it was the lads were a bit under par. I think the whole proudness and the whole achievement of reaching a World Cup for the first time in 64 years. Was probably what Wales, that was what that was the expectations, and I think slightly they took their eye off the ball on the football pitch. They were well below par with their performances, but I think the achievement actually got to a lot of the players, and they were just happy to be there in the end.
John, as a Wales fan, do you remember the first time realising that Gareth Bale was not just going to be another left back or another left winger who would have a good Premier League career, but that he was actually going to be genuinely world class? When did the penny drop for you?
Well, watching him for Spurs, because I was with the national team myself under Chris Coleman for just over a year. I was one of his assistant coaches, so I was able to see Gareth every time we had an international match. And you mentioned it earlier on. His biggest asset, I think, was his pace, and he had wonderful technique. He had a wand of a left foot. He could put the ball, on a sixpence. He could take free kicks. He could hit balls from 30, 40 yards, and he was consistently hitting the target, scoring these unbelievable goals, all these magic moments. But I think when he was at Spurs, when he broke in under Harry Redknapp down that left-hand side, I remember watching him scoring a 20-minute hat-trick, I think it was, or a second-half hat-trick at Inter Milan. Just his performances, his goals. He carried Spurs for the best part of about a year. He was so consistent in his performances and in his goals. And, of course, then that enticed Real Madrid to come in for him with all that money. I think it was it 85, 90 million, close to something like that, which was remarkable. But he's had a wonderful career. He doesn't owe anything to anybody. He reached his goal, which was getting Wales to a World Cup. He's been the best ever player ever to play abroad. His success is so much bigger than what any other player did while they were playing abroad. You look at, I've just alluded to all his trophies and goals there. He's just a unique talent, and he's a really nice lad. He's down to earth, and I don't know what he's going to do next. There's rumours he might join the Live golf sort of company because he loves his golf. So I don't know, but as I said, he'll be able to do whatever he wants to do. He's earned the right.
When you were at training as a coach, was he doing stuff in training that you were thinking, Jesus, this is incredible? Or was it like kind of by that stage you knew exactly how good he was going to be?
Yeah, he was. He was doing things that were out of the ordinary. He was hitting free kicks. He's a hard worker in training. He used to stay behind one of the last off the training ground. There'd be him, there'd be Craig Bellamy, there'd be little Robbie Earnshaw, there'd be Aaron Ramsey, all these guys wanting to get on the free kicks, but there was only one man that was actually going to be taking them on a match day. Some of the things, his pace was just absolutely phenomenal. He could just, honest to God, you had to see it. He's such a special, well-defined sort of specimen, if you like. His body is, he's just a gazelle. He was frightening his pace. He could just get away from people, and then he could deliver. He had a left foot to hit. You look at his goals. Every one of them is almost like a goal of the season contender. He hit so many great goals, and it was a joy to work with him. It was a joy to have, to be, with him for that sort of 12 months or so. I was within the camp. So he was a fantastic player. As I said, I don't know what he's going to do next, but what it does do as well now, it leaves a little pathway for one or two of the younger players that are coming through with the national team. They'll have to step up now. I know Gareth Bale's don't come around too often, probably once in every, I don't know, God knows how many years, just to have that special, unique, talent that he has. But you look at Brennan Johnson now and Dan James and Connor Roberts, Nico Williams, Joe Rodon. These are the ones, the Harry Wilsons. These are the ones now that have to carry that mantle through. And obviously with Robert Page, he's been given the job. The European Championship qualifiers, the Euros start in March. So they have to go again without their talisman. But as I said, I'm half expecting one or two others of the senior players to follow suit. I think a lot of them, 3 or 4 of them up in their 80, 90 caps. Yeah. And I think another campaign might be a bit too much for some of them. The ones especially who are not playing regular for their club sides.
Yeah, 100%. John, great to have you with us. Thanks a million for sharing that with us. Cheers.
Thank you. All the best.
It's John Hartson there giving us some thoughts on the retirement of Gareth Bale. not Southgate, obviously. 29 minutes past 8 this morning. OTB AM brought to you live each morning with Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. A reminder that Braeburn Coffee, though, are the official coffee partner of OTB. Start the new year off with a delicious Braeburn oat milk coffee. January never tasted as good. It's available at Apple Green locations nationwide. After this short break, we're going to continue our Lee Keegan loving with two of his esteemed former Mayo teammates, Colm Boyle and Andy Moran. Back after this.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
Who is this serving and what is the end goal would be kind of nice to know.
The Koigig Pod on OTB Sports.
I feel like we haven't had quite enough Irish bias this year, so I am quite happy to see this.
They were awesome. It's true what Emma Carroll said. Liverpool are coming into their own, right?
Keep up to date with all the WSL action every Tuesday and subscribe to the feed in the OTB Sports app now.
OTB AM.
With Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
So yesterday, after the show, news broke that Lee Keegan has announced his retirement. I'm delighted to say two of his former teammates are with us now to talk to us a little bit about his impact on the team that they played on. I'm delighted to say Colm Boyle and Andy Moran are with us. Andy, I might start with you. You know the difficulty of actually making the final decision. Do you think that there was any chance that Lee might have stayed on, that he could have had his arm twisted?
Good morning, lads. It's a funny one. I stayed on after the Kerry game last year in Croker, and I was quite high up in the stand, and I just watched, making his peace with Croke Park, and I thought that day was all over. And the rumours came out there the last couple of weeks with when Oisin left, that Lee was going to follow suit, but then all of a sudden it calmed down, and we thought maybe there's another year here, but it's unfortunately for us, Mayo people, Donegal people, Dublin people, Clare people had it over the last couple of weeks with Tuberty, Cooper and Murphy. But today, I suppose, is our day to see, I think without argument, our greatest ever player hang up his boots.
Yeah, Colm, what made him so great? You would have come up against him, obviously in club matches and in training. What would have made him so great?
How you doing, lads? First of all, I think I nearly choked on my breakfast earlier on when I heard Shane compare him to G-Sun Park, but it was an unusual one.
It was meant as a compliment now, Colm, I have to say. Hard worker, underrated. Never living this one down. Big game player. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, if you said more of a Roy Keane, maybe.
Exactly, that's what I was thinking. Jesus.
Yeah. But what made Lee so great? Look at it, numerous different things. Look at his ability to mark people. His athleticism. His pure dynamic power that he developed over the years. I suppose if you look at Lee from videos that's gone up on YouTube there from 2012, like he had a very good year, his first year starting on the panel. And then you look at videos of 2013, 14, what the specimen of a man that he developed into, and his sheer and pace, and obviously his football ability was always there with it. You throw that all into the mix, and it just became, a serious combination, and just he developed on. But it was his mindset as much as Anton, and Andy will tell you that all came from the training pitch with them. And I know James Horan was on with Joe last night, and he was on going into the death zone in training. And that's exactly what he did. He just pushed himself to the limit absolutely every single time he went out on the pitch, and I think the training pitch, and I think that gave him the confidence then to do what he did on match day, to just go out and just let loose and let rip, and that's generally what he did.
Andy, sometimes when a young fella's coming through to an inter-county panel, there's rumours and whispers about them because they've done X, Y and Z at club level or underage county level. When Lee was coming through in 2011, were there whispers, or was it the case of just one of these players who breaks through and as soon as he gets onto the senior county panel then does his business?
I'll be honest, I knew very little about him before he came into the squad. He was Joe. He came in and he was quite erratic when he came in first in terms of his football. He was you could see that this guy, you could get nothing off him defensive wise. I used to play wing forward, could you believe, at the time? But I used to play wing forward at the time. And you used to mark Leroy, and you spent half the time back the pitch. But he used to miss quite often. The finishing wasn't there. But as Colm said, as the years went on, 12, 13, 14, he really went to work with Ed Coughlin was our skill acquisition coach at the time, as an S&C coach. But he did a lot of work with Lee on his technique. And wow, when that took off, then it just became this different animal of a player. And like Colm says about the training field, in 2011, myself, I suppose, David Clark, Alan Dillon, we were 27, 28 years of age. Our career was, Dillon had a better career than myself and David Clark. It was quite mediocrity, really, to be honest. And then all of a sudden, Aidan came in 9, Aidan and Donald Vaughan came in 9, and then Lee and Killian came in 11, and Colm came back in 12. And wow, our whole careers lifted with these guys. So people would say, Jesus, it's a love in with Lee and all the guys that are retiring now. But without them guys, the likes of myself, Alan Dillon, David Clark, would never have had the careers that we ended up having from Mayo without these guys. And Lee really lifted the standards around the place. It wasn't just the training field for me. It was when we got to Croke Park, he literally just took off. Like I don't remember Lee Keegan as being that great of a league footballer or even a Connacht footballer. What I remember from him is when we got to Croke Park, and I think his stats kind of emphasise that 748 in championship is insane. I think he only scored about 123 in the league. You know, he just loved Croke Park, marking the best player and saying, Joe, and it never fazed him. Like Colm is there. Colm, you couldn't see him with the walls. He was that white before the games, the week leading up to the games. I wasn't much better. Higgins was half asleep. And Lee used to just walk into the room. Colm will tell you this before whatever hotel we were in. Lee walk into the room, hair be gelled, smile on his face, headphones in, ready to rock and roll. And he just had this mindset, lads. It's hard to explain. And we'll talk about the games. And 2 games really stand out for me. Of course, everyone will remember the Dublin games. But 2017, we play Roscommon, and obviously Roscommon is close to me here in Balladreen. But we were gone. We were bet, like we were out the gate in that first quarter final, and we put him on their best player, Enda Smith, at midfield, and he scored 1-3, lads, from midfield. It was just one of the most extraordinary games. And then a guy that I grew up watching was Sean Kavanagh. 2003, we're both, or 1983, we're both 1983 babies, myself and Kavanagh. So I knew about Sean Kavanagh from when he was 15, 16. So the respect I had for him as a footballer was just insane. And then in 2016, Lee just nullifies Kavanagh, takes him out of the game. I think Sean ends up getting sent off. And when we needed it, he just kicks a point off his left from under the Hogan, and then he goes over to the Cusick stand and kicks a point off his right and wins us the game. And it was just in them big moments, his mindset was just incredible all the time, right through, you know?
Yeah, it is insane that he can do both the defending and the attacking. That's the bit that marks him out as somebody who's really special, and why everybody's saying he's the best Mayo footballer of all time. It's like he wasn't just a spoiler, he was also a really gifted attacker.
Like just in that, like Kieran Shannon, a friend of myself and Colm's, Kieran Shannon wrote an incredible article about Pawdy in the 70s, 80s. He was the attacking wing back, you know, and then all of a sudden you had the Paul Kearns, Johnny McGurk's, Noel Kennelly's from Mayo that could attack from wing back and score a point. Then you had Tomas, who took it to a new level, and then you had Keegan, who just blew every kind of stat out of the window. And that's why Mayo people love him. And like, there's no comparing him. We don't compare him to James McCarthy. We can see that James McCarthy is this unbelievably special player. We're just talking about Lee Keegan from Mayo and what he did. In 2016, he becomes the first ever Mayo footballer of the year. He's the first ever Mayo fella to win more than 2 All-Stars. Now he's the first ever to win 5. Joe, he was the bar setter. He was the guy that went and just kind of said, lads, we can kind of do this. We can perform at the highest level. And like his return in them big games was just incredible.
I hope I don't make you choke in your cornflakes anymore, Colm. But I mean, where does he rank in terms of, like, I guess the point was he follows orders that a manager gives him so succinctly, and yet he almost exceeds those expectations. Like Andy said, to man mark Enda Smith in a match at midfield and still score 1-3. Like, I'm sure in the team talk beforehand, there's no discussion whatsoever of Lee, banging in 1-3 that day, but he's able to exceed everything that's asked of him.
Yeah, well, I suppose, Shane, it had almost gone to the stage where it was almost a given. If we knew Lee was on a man, we were saying, well, that's him taking out the game. There's no issue. There's going to be no issue with that player today, because he was given the job of marking him. And it's because we'd seen it so often through the years. And I think when I was thinking back yesterday, I was thinking, when was the first time I remember Lee doing a proper man marking job? What was the first task that was given? I think it was 2013 semi-final against Matty Donnelly. We were playing Tyrone, and Matty was an up-and-coming player really for Tyrone. He was going really well, scoring consistently from wing forward. And he was like, and Lee just does an absolute number of them from wing back, completely takes them out of the game and kicks 2 outrageous points himself in the meantime. And what you were just saying there about him attacking, American guys, but attacking, that's what he did. That's what he used as his weapon to almost nullify them and take them out of the game. And if you watch Lee a lot of the time, when he's sprinting back into position after kicking a score, he's literally sprinting back harder than he was when he was going forward. And let me tell you, that is extremely hard to do. But it was almost like he was showing his man, I'm going to be going up and down here all day and you're going to be chasing me. And he just really demoralised his opponents by doing that, because he was so relentless. And he'd almost be coming back with his smile on his face after kicking a score, after sprinting up 90 yards, and back he goes again. And that was just the character he was. But I think over time his game definitely changed. So he did that probably from whatever 12 to maybe 19 or something like that. And when the injury started to come in 18 and 19, and then definitely in his last 2 years, I think his game changed a lot more. He was a lot more conservative with his runs, I would say. He wasn't probably going as frequently, but his timing with them, it was almost he was going when he felt like his team needed him most. Okay, and even a lot of the YouTube clips that's gone up there of the last 2 years from him, if you look at the scoreboard in the left corner, Mayo are always a couple of points down, and it's like, Lee's senses, right, my team need me. Up he goes, kicks a score, kicks an outrageous score, and back again. And like, that sounds like an easy thing to do, but it's so hard in tough pressurised moments, and that's what he was just able to do so consistently.
It's funny, we've been talking about Gareth Bale with John Hartson, and I do wonder, Andy, if one of the reasons why Lee Keegan is retiring is that he feels like he still can't be that completely dominant physical character in the game, even though the rest of us are looking at it going, Jesus, you're still incredibly effective. There's definitely a role there for you. Every county in Ireland would love to have you back at whatever physical or however diminished physically he feels he is. I'm sure the management team are like, no, you just go when you want to, it's fine, manage yourself.
Yeah, we've got a very good young player coming up from our club, Dave McBride, who you'd love to get a year under him, just watching Lee playing in beside him and stuff like that, but it's not going to happen. But I think if it was the last year of a cycle, so if it was James Horan's cycle, I thought this was Michael Murphy at the time. I was thinking if Declan Bonner stayed on, I'm sure Michael Murphy would have stayed on for one more year. And if James Horan stayed on, Lee probably would have as well, because it's one more year kind of thing. Now we are moving into another 3-4 year cycle. So it's different. Lee has a beautiful wife, Aoife, at home, two beautiful kids, and it's just a bit different. I know we can see, and listen, Lee's mindset is so strong, lads. It genuinely is. I'd say if he went back, he'd just go, yeah, listen, I just need to get my body right here. I can do a job as well. But I'd say it's just, okay, if I commit here, what am I actually committing to? Am I committing to 1 year, or am I committing to 3? Because once you're in it, it's hard then to get out of it. So I think he probably just felt this was the right time for him, Aoife, and his kids just to move away. And that second child, it makes it very, very difficult to commit time. One child is a beautiful moment. 2 children is a complete different ballgame. So, and like Aoife, I think it's important to mention her, because myself and Colm, she's been there all through Lee's career. It's like they came together, unbelievably supportive girl, like brilliant girl, brilliant around the place, and the two of them go together. I'm sure it's very emotional for their whole family, because their whole family, his brother and his mum and dad, were always there with the team. So it's I suppose a sad moment, but a great moment, reflective as well, you know.
I think about that attacking wing-back position, Colm, and granted Leroy could play in a number of positions, but look, you think of, I guess, Tomás O'Shea and Philly Jordan and these type of players in the noughties, but then Lee kind of changes it, because you see the likes of James McCarthy coming through as well, and that created players like Carl Lacey, and you've Carl O'Connell, lads running up the flanks. In a similar way to which Stephen Cluxton changed the goalkeeping position, is it fair to say Leroy in many ways changed that wing half-back position?
He did, really. I suppose when you're putting them there with the names you've mentioned, certainly them boys started, the score and half-back role, if you want to call it that way. But Lee kind of took that on to another level, and he's almost taken it on to kind of Messi, Ronaldo levels, where you're thinking, like, it's never going to be done again. The numbers that he hit, like, absolutely outrageous numbers, and and it's been said numerous times, he's doing that while nullifying, obviously, the opposition's best forward. I think it would have been interesting. I know Andy has always said through the years that Keith Higgins should have been developed as a forward from his early years, maybe back in minor. I'd be interested, does he think Lee should have been the same? Could he have been a wing forward or a centre forward for us, with his score and return that he had? But I think just coming from deep just suited Lee. It just suited him because he's such sheer athleticism that actually coming from deep, that whoever was marking probably wasn't going to be able to stick with him for the 80-90 yard burst that he was making at the time. And I think it was just ideal for his game at the time. But yeah, I think his score and return for a back. Look, Tom O'Sullivan is kind of doing something ridiculous at the minute for Kerry from that regards too. He's kicking 2 or 3 points a game sometimes. But Lee, over a period of 12 years, will we see the likes of that kind of score again from a number 5 or cornerback as he's been the last 2 years? Very, very unlikely.
I think the only time he didn't really hit the scoring heights in Croker was against Kerry in 17 when we played them 2 games, and we played him as a centre forward, because remember we moved Aidan back as a full back that time. I think he hated a Boiler, so I'm not going to say I'd have developed him into a forward, but he them names, lads, the Carl Lacey's, the Colm Boyles, the James McCarthy's, Jack McCaffrey, these guys, we've just been feasted with halfbacks of a calibre. I'm not sure, we've seen it in the 90s, but I think we've seen it now again with these guys. It's just been a golden era for halfbacks, and we were just very lucky probably to have 2 or 3 of them with Colm, Donald, Lee, and these guys. As Mayo, we were probably very lucky to have these guys,
I guess you mentioned the club stuff as well, Andy. The fact that Westport did achieve so much this year and get over the line finally in the Mayo Senior Club Championship, that must have been something that in some ways twisted Leroy's arm to say that, yeah, now's the time.
I think he probably, if I'm being honest, I think he probably had the decision made. I think it was the likes of Donny, Buckley and Stephen Rochford coming back in probably stalled it a bit and made him think. But I do remember seeing him in Crokerland after Kerry, and I remember that feeling. The 2 kids on the pitch, he waited a long time. I think there's a famous picture of himself and Horan just embracing, and I was nearly like, this is done now. So it was a big moment, I think. But the Westport thing was great for Lee. It was great for Kevin Kane and the boys. But I think his decision was probably made before that, Shane.
So, Colm, we're going to leave you with the comparison with Gareth Bale as opposed to Ji-sung Park and rescue everybody's breakfast today. That's about right, isn't it?
Yeah, pace, power, athleticism. Yeah, that seems a bit more fitting. All right, yeah, certainly.
Outrageous highlight reel of scoring ability.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, that'd be a pretty good reel now if you mash them 2 boys together in the one video.
Hope Archie Sung's not watching today.
He likes golf too, boy. He likes to golf as well.
There you go. Maybe he'll have the time to get down to scratch. Lads, good stuff. Thanks a million for joining us. Great to chat to you both. Thanks a million.
Thanks a million, guys.
It's Colm Boyle and Andy Moran sharing their memories of the greatest Mayo footballer of all time.
I don't think it's even a question, is it? I know people at Nostalgia Bias will remember Kieran MacDonald and Mortimer and those lads, and even Liam McHale before, but Keegan's up there. He has to be top of the tree. Yeah,
I think that team, anyway, look, we'll get into it. 8:47 OTB AM brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish today. John Duggan is with us. John,
Ger and Shane, good morning.
A day of retirement yesterday.
It was, yeah, and with Lee Keegan, look, I suppose the thing that's coming into my mind is who's the best player to never win at All Ireland, and you'd have to think he's right up there with the select few that haven't, whether it's Frank McGuigan or even like there's players in so-called weaker counties that you don't know how they would have got on if they were playing for a Kerry or for a Dublin or for a Tyrone, Paul Barden or Gary Brennan or Barry Owens or even Kevin O'Brien for Wicklow.
David Tuberty, we were talking about.
Yeah, so I really felt that Kieran MacDonald was an amazing footballer as well, just a very different footballer to Lee Keegan, just in terms of pure talent. But Lee Keegan, I suppose, was a great servant. You could say possibly he's the greatest servant never to win an All-Ireland, or the greatest servant that Mayo have had, because he was able to do 2 things. He was able to man-mark players out of games in big games and also go up the field and score. So he was the complete player in that respect, and I don't think he should be defined by the fact that he never won an All-Ireland, just as much as a great Waterford hurler wouldn't be defined in that way as well. So happy retirement, Lee, and yeah, that's my kind of take on it. Obviously Colm and Andy would know more, and for Gareth Bale, as a Spurs fan, he gave us some great days. There was 15 seasons where Spurs finished between 7th and 15th in the Premier League. So it was a really, really tough spell in the 90s and 2000s. And it wasn't really until Harry Redknapp came along that Spurs began to do something. And Gareth Bale was seen as a bit of a guy who liked his night out in the town. And they kind of had to manage him in a certain way at the beginning. For his first 2 years at Spurs, he didn't play that many matches, but he never won a game. But Harry Redknapp was a really good manager of him. And then he really just took off like a rocket, played in a more advanced position, and had a beautiful technique with the ball, and then that power, that surge that he had as a player. And for Tottenham, like there was a goal he scored against United in 2012. I remember being in Brussels watching it, and Spurs hadn't won in United since 1989. We went to Arsenal, we won. We hadn't won at Arsenal in 17 years. There was the Maicon moment in the Champions League against Inter Milan. There was the late goals against Southampton, West Ham, and twice PFA Player of the Year, which was unusual once again for a player from a club that was nowhere near really winning the league. And then obviously went off to Real Madrid as a world record signing, 85 million, and won 5 Champions Leagues.
Yeah, it seems strange to be talking about him as only 33 and retiring. I guess that's what caught people off guard a little bit yesterday. It makes sense in hindsight now that he's
been coming for a long time, though.
Yeah.
I suppose once you get Wales to a World Cup, and that was the first time in 64 years, and you've achieved that, and you've achieved everything you can as a club footballer, and the body hasn't been responding the way it should have been.
What's the standout? Is it that Inter Milan performance in 2010? Is it the bicycle kick against Liverpool? The goal in the Copa del Rey where he runs the outside?
I was producing Premier League Live for a long time, and there was a game against Southampton. We did a commentary game just before he left Spurs, and he did nothing for the game. And then in one moment he scored this brilliant goal, and the 85th minute just surged through and just blasted into the bottom corner. And that, for me, encapsulated what Bale was all about. Obviously, the best moment that Bale ever produced was that overhead kick in the Champions League final against Liverpool. Zidane, who was manager at the time, they didn't really get on, but we all saw Zidane's goal against was it Bayer Leverkusen in 2002 and thought that, well, not much is going to top that in a Champions League final, and Bale arguably did that, you know.
But did he have any weaknesses as a player? I know it's a strange time to be talking about weaknesses when a player hangs up his boots, but anything that stood out as missing from his game?
No right foot, right? I mean, I don't want to. You're right. That, like, it seems childish. The other thing is that, like, he kind of.
You could say his attitude was a weakness towards the end of his career.
The last 4 or 5 years, really, he never fulfilled that level of potential. And I don't know if we're going to find out that he was perpetually injured the whole time, because when you think, John Hartson waxing lyrical about the Michelangelo's David body that he had, he did, right? But when it's that. When it's that perfect, obviously it breaks down much quicker than other people's. Like, there was no room for error there. But once those physical gifts started to diminish, he was less capable. When he came back to Spurs, he was terrible, right?
Yeah,
like that's kind of completely forgotten about.
It's forgotten during the whole COVID thing, the empty stadiums. But yeah, like he couldn't play full matches.
The last 3 seasons, essentially, he was a part-time player, but still, even with that, managed to drag Wales to a World Cup.
Yeah,
and that's
he could still deliver moments. I
can't see him. I know John Hartson was saying he doesn't know what he's going to go on to do. I can't see him staying in football in terms of coaching, even punditry maybe. Like, he seems like someone who, right, football, one and done, that's it. Now, maybe I'm completely wrong, but it doesn't strike me as someone who will do his badges.
You know where you'll see him? Definitely the Dunhill links.
Yeah, or being a part owner of Wrexham or something like that. He's got the name recognition and profile to get involved in something that's not day-to-day management. There's one other story I want to ask you about, John. John Ram's pissed off, right? John Ram's current form.
Did he have a go at Patrick Cantley?
No, he's having a go at the world rankings.
Yeah.
It's not really. So the Cantley, he's kind of a victim of it, right? I didn't realise his form is so sensational. I've won 3 times in his last 5 tournaments, and his other ones were a 2nd and a 4th, and his world ranking hasn't changed. So this is the whole law of unintended consequences. The world rankings came together with the DP and the PGA, essentially PGA, and we're like, okay, if a lot of high-ranking players are playing in small fields, like in Live Golf, then the world ranking points are going to be crap for those, right? And I was like, yeah. And then he's won a lot of small field tournaments, even though he hasn't jumped ship, and he's still only the 5th best golfer in the world, even though he says he's the best golfer in the world. And he's genuinely pissed off about it. He's talking about it, not like, what's going on with the system? Why am I not the best in the world? I've won 3 times. Like, I feel like I'm the best golfer in the world. That's not ridiculous. Earlier on in the year it was Scotty, then it was Rory, and now it's me.
Well, world rankings generally in sport are generally flawed.
Yeah.
So Belgium were world number 1 for how long in football? I think was it over 3 years or something like that. Brazil are currently number 1. The football world rankings are flawed. The rugby world rankings are flawed. We're not the best team in the world in rugby. France are. And golf, to me, has always had world rankings that are just too, and maybe this is working against John Ram at the moment, but they're too reflective of recency. Whereas Scotty Scheffler's number one, and then Rory's number one, and really, I think he's got a point, John Ram. But John Ram is always pissed off.
But the golfers love the world rankings. They think that's important in a way that the footballers don't. And the rugby, I mean, if your KPIs are to go up to the world ranking, and they are, a few might think the rankings are important. We don't think they're important. But the world rankings do seem to matter to these guys.
I think we're being number one in the world matters. And that is the ranking that they all want to strive to. So it is probably just below the majors as a badge of honour.
Cameron Smith won the same tournament last year and got 62 points. Ram only got 37 this year because they changed the rules to screw live, and now they're actually screwing their own golfers. And it's like, oh, how do we fix this? Oh no, just make peace with live.
John Ram was demanding as well. He was. I think he changed his tune a bit on that, but he was hoping that the live golfers would play with the Ryder Cup. He wanted to play with Sergio, but John Ram generally does carry an air of rage,
ego.
I would call it. I don't know if it's ego.
I think it's all of these things, but
I think that's fuel for him. I think that's in a positive way. He's the barroom brawler. He's my barroom brawler friend in a metaphorical sense. I can see the chairs like going over. Come on, John. I think he uses his. There has to be a hook or an edge, and it might be that. It might be the Ryder Cup. It might be something else. Like a few months ago, it was like the fact that Tiger wasn't talking to him. So there's always something with him, and I think he uses that as a kind of he needs to have an edge. John Ram.
We were talking about this yesterday. That very weird Christmas video. I don't know if you saw it, John, but Ryder Cup captain Luke Donald doing the Love Actually thing outside Rory McIlroy's door, and Luke Donald saying he wants Rory McIlroy to be more like John Ram. That was clearly oh no, John, you're very important to us, we love you, even though we're the ones making this video. You're at the centre of our thoughts. They need John Ram.
Yeah, and
if John Ram jumps ship to live, then that's like...
Yeah, but he was giving out about the schedule while I was talking to Rory sort of that. I didn't know about that. So, generally there'll be another thing now in a couple of weeks that I think he uses that in a positive way because he'll see himself as
bit of Rory jealousy.
I just think John Ram is just prickly as a rule, and I think that he's the kind of guy you ask him 3 questions and is beautifully soft, and then you might ask him a question and we're into a different world here.
It's like Tyrone. The Tyrone football team have always built a wall around themselves.
Yeah.
I think John Ram does the same. He tries to.
Are Tyrone not always prickly all the time?
Yeah, of course. But there's something similar. He needs something to keep him going.
It wasn't diss of Cantlay. I listened to 50 minutes of Cantlay the other day, so it was a bit of a diss, which I thought was unfair. Cantlay's talking about winning the career Grand Slams, so that's where his head is at.
Your man, Cantlay.
That's it, so you got to do your research.
So Ram was dissing Cantlay as well?
I thought he was a little bit of a diss now.
I only saw that will I pass Patrick Cantlay since the playoffs. I only saw this bit of it, so maybe there's something else as well. I guess my point here is Rory better be careful. John Ram's coming for Augusta. They're all the big beasts are getting agitated, and it's going to be good.
We're going to see more of them, and you look at the way at Hawaii, they're all up the top. Jordan Spieth was there, Scotty Scheffler was there. And I think obviously they're going to be playing more tournaments against each other at the top end. So bring it on. And I do think the quality is strong. JT, Will Zalatoris. But I don't think Patrick Cantlay is 4th in the world, but his major performances wouldn't reflect that ranking.
All right, JD.
All right, lads. No, not much. Enjoying the football, and it'll be interesting to see how Arsenal and City get on in the Cup. Because they're meeting in the 4th round, and Hugo Lloris has retired. And also I'm reading today that Qatar and Spurs have met with rumours about a 25% investment in Spurs by the Qataris.
For $1 billion.
Yeah. They can't
Which I'm sure they'll spend on players as opposed to putting in their back pocket.
Yeah. You can only hope, can't you? And then obviously you have to be conflicted about it, and I'll have to go into my moral diatribe and then just, turn into a Newcastle fan and forget all about it.
Yeah.
John, good stuff.
All right, lads.
More from John, of course, on Saturday afternoon and Off the Ball on News Talk. It is 8:58. OTB AM is brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. I'm delighted to say Sarah Rowe, now of Melbourne Victory, is on the line from Melbourne. Sarah, good evening/morning to you. How are you? I think we're on mute. One of us was on mute. We can't hear you there. We'll go back to you now. Yeah, we can hear you now, I think. Yeah.
Not me, I don't think.
There you go.
Can you hear me? Hi.
Working perfectly, yeah. Before we get into your story, what do you think of the Lee Keegan era finishing? Because he's an all-time legend. You're a Mayo footballer yourself.
Oh, it's just incredible to see, I suppose, a guy who could probably play another 3 or 4 years at the top of his game, because he's finished on such a high, and I think that's, you know, having not have an All-Ireland final in his pocket, but have had such a decorated career himself. It's amazing to finish being at the peak of your performance, essentially. But yeah, it's sad to see him go, because he's just, you know, he's a mainstay in Mayo, and he has been for so long.
Right, so let's talk about you. Last time we spoke to you, a couple of weeks ago, you were in the AFL off-season, and now you're back in the middle of the actual soccer season, having been picked up by Mulroy Victory. So how did this all come about?
Yeah, I'm not someone who knows how to relax, I think. I think last season I took 6, maybe 8 weeks off because of the way the season timing worked, and just took that time away and trained, obviously, but didn't play with Mayo that season. And I think I kind of missed not cross-coding, I suppose. But it never worked out for me to go back to soccer prior to now. I'm sorry, I don't know what that is. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can, yeah.
Sorry, I just got cut out there. It never worked out before now to go back to soccer because of the season time and dates with AFLW. So it was always that. It was, you know, there was always an option to go back to Gaelic football. But I had definitely left soccer on an abrupt note a couple of years ago to focus on Mayo, that year that we got to the All-Ireland final in 2017. And from that, then I got the opportunity to come out to AFLW, and probably only thought that I was going to be out here for a year, and then 5 years later I'm still here. But having returned to soccer 2 years ago with Shells, just I had that itch. I was like, I really feel like I'm not done. I just don't know when I'm going to get the time or the opportunity to. So I just seemed to align this time with season, and a few conversations with different clubs. I spoke to Dave Connell at length. He was brilliant in, I suppose, my transition back, and just giving me the belief that I could probably go back and play at some sort of high level, but it would be best to get a club either in Melbourne or come home and try get a club in Ireland or go from there. So these conversations have been going on for quite some time.
When you were younger, Sarah, were you a Gaelic football head or a soccer head, or did you have an order of preference?
I think my first sport was soccer, and then my second sport was Gaelic football. But I would say my favourite sport has always been Gaelic football, but it's just because I've come from a Gaelic football family with both my grandparents playing with Mayo. So I think that was always the thing. It was always about family, pride of place, playing with the team you've grown up with your whole life. But then I suppose soccer has brought, you know, different opportunities for me, playing with Castlebar Celtic, then on to Shells. There was always stepping stones. But I remember at the time when I left soccer for that year after the under-19 European finals, like, I always felt like I would go back, but I didn't really see the pathways at the time because there wasn't as many pathways. Then it was only 2 or 3 years after that you saw, you know, girls go to England or girls go abroad to play soccer, but there just wasn't them pathways at the time. Had there been, maybe I would have made a different decision at the time.
Well, I mean, a World Cup being in Australia, where you're already acclimatised to the weather and conditions, Sarah, that's a pretty coincidental pathway.
No, I'm a long way off that. I'm only back training about 5 weeks. I am not near the standard that I would hold myself to, and there's an awful lot of work to go in. And really, I know it's cliche and all as it sounds, it's really about me focusing on trying to get better every day and taking in as much education as I can and doing as much extra technical work as I can with the coaches over here. The coach, Steph Hopkins from Melbourne Victory, has been incredible, and they've just put in an awful lot of work to me. And I think I just really appreciate the confidence and faith that they have had in me over the last couple of weeks, considering I've been so long out of the game. For them to even give me an opportunity here has been amazing. I'm very grateful for that. But yeah, the World Cup, it's amazing. It's so good to think that all the girls, even talking to Claire Shine the other day, that they're all flying over, and it's just going to be literally a flight away, either in Sydney and Perth or whatever. But regardless, I'll be there cheering the girls on. Now that's if I can get tickets. But it's been amazing to watch what the girls have done.
So I mean, all joking aside, is it even part of your dream to potentially things go well and over the next couple of months get called back into an Ireland squad and do some training with them, or is that not even possible with the AFLW?
Well, that's like saying, like, if you had an opportunity to go to the Olympics, would you not go? Of course you'd go. Of course you'd love to go. Of course it would be your dream. Any sports person's dream would be to play at the highest level of any sport that they can get to. So yeah, I said, like, obviously one can dream about things like that, but it just feels like, you know, it feels like it's been 8 years really essentially since I've been playing at the highest level. So there's so much work that needs to go in from a personal point of view. Then, I need to bring that into victory, and you need to perform week in, week out. So there's so many stepping stones to that. But for now, I'll just be definitely supporting the girls from behind.
What position are you playing, Sarah? What type of soccer player are you?
I'm playing in Katie McCabe's position, so tell her to watch out. And I'm only joking. She's one of my great friends. She's an absolute credit. But no, I'm playing either left wing, right wing, or up top. We kind of switch. We generally switch between the three up top.
That positional flexibility, does that come from a GA background a little bit, where you kind of have to do a little bit of everything no matter where you are on the pitch, or was that always kind of your game anyway?
Yeah, that was probably always kind of my game anyway. I used to play centre mid when I was younger, but always with Ireland, I always played up through the ranks. It was always right or left wing. But I think, I probably missed, within the AFLW, it's a very structured game, and I probably missed that flexibility of being able to play a bit more on instinct and kind of move around a bit more. But like Gaelic football obviously brings a lot of that as well. You do play a lot in instinct too.
For anybody who hasn't seen it, it's been doing the rounds on Twitter, but here's the Australian commentary of your first touchback in football, courtesy of the Australian soccer website, keepup.com. Have a listen to this.
Cleared by Goad. He was able to find Rowe. Oh, call an ambulance. Some ankles are broken there. What a run this from Sarah Rowe. Oh, dear.
Sarah Rowe on that occasion absolutely sent Izzy Filletta.
Call an ambulance, some ankles are broken there.
Send for dinner, Sarah.
Normally that's me, it's on the other side. Normally I'm the one tripping over someone else. If you saw me the first week back at training, I was properly tripping over my own feet. So I think I was just lucky at that moment.
You're obviously enjoying it.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm absolutely loving being back at a sport that I have such a passion for, and I have for so long. I really have missed it. I think that's been the thing. I've just been so grateful to be able to train, in that elite environment and be with some great players, like players who play with the Matildas. Like, we have a girl from Denmark at the moment who's playing with us. She's on loan for 6 weeks. To be able to play with these players and also learn from them as well has been amazing. And just the training schedule is like far more than you would do at home in the National League, because we train in the morning. So we're in training for 7 o'clock and then we're done by like 1 o'clock every day. But that's like 5 days a week. So it's just it's different to the AFLW again, because obviously we're at a semi-pro stage in AFLW and we train in the evening time. So even that in itself has been great.
Was there an element, Sarah, in your head of unfinished business in football? Like, has this been kind of on your radar since you went to Oz in 2018? Was it something that you always felt, if the opportunity arose, that you would take it?
Yeah, I always used to have conversations with my dad just about, like, was there opportunities to play in Sydney, Perth, because there's teams all over the place. And you would have saw Julianne Russell played over in Australia. So I had reached out to her a couple of months ago as well to say, like, what was the standard like? What were the opportunities? That all those things. So I'd definitely been asking questions for a long time. It was like, how am I going to get the seasons to align? And I'm very much in the thick of it with Collingwood as well. Like, you didn't want to walk away from that fully, without knowing what you're going into as well. So, I think there was a lot of weighing up to do, and then it just seemed to perfectly align. This year, I missed the first 5 weeks of pre-season, and then towards the end of Collingwood season, they were coming into round 1. So Jeff, the coach, was like, well, like, because they didn't even have that much footage of me. It was like there was a small bit from under 19, but like, they were going off word of mouth from talking to Collingwood, from talking to clubs that I've been at before, and taking a real risk on me really, and just saying, when can you come in training? Can you come in straight away? But we were in the middle of finals at the time, so I was like, I obviously can't come in training until the season ends. So then it was a really slow approach as well. It was like Collingwood and Victory had to work together and be like, she can train once a week with Victory, the rest of the week with Collingwood, twice a week with Victory, then with RSC at Collingwood. So it was a really stagnated approach, because obviously transitioning into a different sport, like managing your body, trying to prevent as many injuries as possible. So I think I was very frustrated at the start, because I just wanted to get in straight away and get as much touch as possible. But I think the way it's worked out has been perfect.
you already have National League and Cup honours with Shelbourne from before, and you're probably seeing the increased interest in the Women's National League over here, even from Australia on social media and whatever else. Like, obviously this is a massive hypothetical, but if and when you return to Ireland at some point in the future, is the Women's National League on your radar? Is it back into the Mayo colours, or have you even thought that far ahead?
Yeah, it's hard to think any further than right now. My goal is to get to April, because that's the end of the victory season. And, that's as far as you can think. And then after that, you go, we still don't know when AFLW is starting again next season, or when pre-season starts. We've no definite dates of that. So there's still going to be loads to weigh up in the middle of all that. But yeah, National League is definitely not something that's not on my radar. I always keep in touch with Shells and always chat to them. They're always in the background, even just wishing me luck for games and stuff. So yeah, that's very much, that would be in the back of my mind, definitely.
So the soccer season finishes in April, and you say you don't know when the AFLW is definitely going to restart. When is it likely to restart?
It's likely to restart the season to start the end of August. That would mean that pre-season would start probably end of May.
Okay, so there's a bit of a gap there.
Then there's a bit of a gap, yeah. So they think that the games won't start until the end of August.
Right, so you've got a couple of decisions to make there, and you'll have an opportunity to put a load of tape down over the next couple of months. Yeah,
I think you just have to see how it goes week by week, and literally training session by training session. That's genuinely my focus, because if you start to think of big outcomes or what's next, you really do forget to do the little things really well. And I've definitely had times in my career where I have thought like that. You think too far ahead, and all of a sudden you get an injury or something goes pear-shaped for you, and you're not performing and you're missing out in detail. So for me, it really is it's just a process.
Well, listen, enjoy every step of it, because it's an incredible story. Thanks a million for joining us again, Sarah. Best of luck.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you.
That's Sarah Rowe there, who is a soccer player now. Last time we talked to her, she was an AFL player, and before that, obviously, a Mayo inter-county footballer. So an incredible career that Sarah Rowe is putting together. It's 11 minutes past 9. A reminder that OTB AM is brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. Here's what's on OTB Sports Radio for you today. OTB Gold at 1 o'clock is the Life and Times of Johnny Kilban at Dadcast from 3. Matt Williams' Best 15 from 4. And Barry Ryan talking about Irish cycling and his book, The Ascent. From 6, the show is live tonight with Joe Mulroy and the gang with the Slight Tangent, first one of the year, and plenty more besides. You can follow Off the Ball across all our social channels and subscribe to the OTB Podcast Network for all the best in latest sports content. Up next, we're joined in studio by Louth senior footballer Sam Mulroy, the man behind, you've guessed it, Sam Mulroy Fitness. We'll chat about how you can maintain and improve your fitness with Sam. Plenty more besides. Back after this. First, this though.
Testing 1 2 1 2. GMAC 1 2. GMAC's morning motivational moment, or something along those lines. There's so many to choose from. Good morning. Liam McDowell here. GMAC, as you guys like to call me. Some Tuesday motivation for you now. Don't worry if you're late for things. Take life in your stride. If I could teleport, I'd still probably be late. If I had to pick one superpower, I'd say that would be it. Teleportation. Anyway, that is your Tuesday motivation. See you tomorrow. GMAC's morning motivational moment, or something along those lines. There's so many to choose from.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
Have you subscribed to the OTB Football Podcast?
It's not like Maradona or Messi, where the ball is tied to the left foot. I always see the ball as something which is bouncing like an obedient, happy puppy at his feet. And if you really want to see him at his peak, the footage, unfortunately, is far, far worse than anything from 1917. It's in black and white.
Subscribe now to the OTB Football Podcast stream wherever you get your podcasts, and download the OTB Sports app.
OTB AM
with Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
All right, I'm delighted to say Sam Mulroy of Sam Mulroy Fitness is here. How are you? How's it going?
Yeah, how are you?
Happy New Year to you.
Thank you.
I presume this is like the busiest 3 weeks of your life, is it?
Yeah, it is pretty mental at this stage, but look, I suppose you just take it when it comes, and it's great to have it.
Yeah, so you started your business, I think, around 2020, is that right?
2020, it was actually our third birthday there, the 7th of January just gone, so
right.
Yeah, 3 years and 2 COVIDs. And
did you get it in just before COVID started, or?
Yeah, we just started that January, and then we were going pretty well. We were flying, and obviously COVID hit that March or whatever, so bit of a nightmare, but in hindsight maybe look, it made it, and I suppose if you can survive that, you might survive anything.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about when you left school, what did you decide to do? What was the path from going from not having a business to having a business?
Yeah, I suppose a bit of a, not the probably straightforward routine of leaving school and college, and when I left school I hadn't done a CEO, hated school at the time.
Pull in a little bit there to the mic, sorry, yeah.
And yeah, hated school and didn't fill in a CEO or anything, so I was building sheds I think at one stage after school, and Derek Crilly from DKT ended up ringing me looking to play football more so than anything, so
the lure of Sigerson
came calling, so I suppose that was how I got into college in the first place, and done a year in Carlow and a couple of years in DKT. And
what were you studying?
I was studying sport exercise.
Okay.
And then I done a master's last year in Jordanstown in sports management, obviously just to complement.
And did you find you liked it when you got into it?
No, I wasn't even loving it. I was just getting through it and getting it done was the case. And obviously the lower playing football at college and stuff was probably to the forefront of what I was doing.
Yeah.
Or why I was there. And then I done a placement in third year in Sport Ireland with Graham Byrne, the S&C coach at Louth at the time. And that was how I suppose fell in love with fitness and helping people.
So the penny dropped at that point?
And Graham Byrne had a little chat with me, sat me down and probably told me to cop on a little bit and try sort my life out. So
right.
It was a case of biting the bullet and getting to it. Yeah,
it's funny how sometimes people having those conversations with you, they mean nothing to you because you're not ready for it. But when you're ready for it, you're like, oh yeah, okay, I see what you mean now.
Yeah, I suppose when you look at it, and even spoke about before Oisin McConville having a little word as well, and when it comes from people like that, I suppose maybe they're looking right for you. And
so did somebody ring Oisin and say, here, listen, will you have a word with this guy, because you know?
Not that I know of. Look, maybe they did. I'd say a few people are giving out about me, but no, look, I was working on a building site, and it was probably easy for me. It was only down the road, but look, I think Oisin maybe knew that I'd more in me and I had different interests and stuff, and the same with Graham. So it's nice to get a chat from people like that, and maybe that can see potential in you and stuff. So I suppose I was going well in the college placement in Sport Ireland. So
right.
Yeah, he said, look, I'll give it a crack back home and see what happens. So that's where it started.
Yeah, it was funny, right? Because sometimes players going to college just to do a course to play Sigerson gets a bad rap, right? But I'm all in favour of it because it actually gives you a few years to just
sort yourself out,
and
figure out what you want to do.
Exactly,
I suppose,
like find yourself,
Yeah, absolutely, deep down
about it. But like, how is any 16-year-old who is, or 17-year-old who's filling out the CAO supposed to know, I want to do this thing for the rest of my life and I'm going to do this, because that's what you're told.
Absolutely, yeah.
But actually it's bollocks.
Yeah,
it's just what you're going to do for the next couple of years.
Absolutely, yeah. And I suppose, look, sport was always an interest with football and all that crack, so that's how I fell into that, I suppose, and probably the easiest route at the time, and that's how I got in that line of work, I suppose.
It's also like traditionally everybody's like, oh, go and be a teacher, it's the perfect thing for GA, but actually I'm not sure it is anymore, particularly with the way the seasons are aligning. But actually working in the fitness industry is not a really bad thing at all if you want to be involved in elite GA. We see various people, TJ Reid famously, Aidan O'Mahony, there's loads of other people who have actually made a career in fitness, work very well. Andy Moran was just on this morning as well. Did you talk to any of them at all?
I spoke to Andy actually
Right.
a couple of times and that, so the link there would be Tom Parsons, obviously through the GPA and stuff, so I spoke to Andy a good few times, and there's a few Shane Lyons that used to play from Anna has been great to me, so there's definitely bouncing ideas off other people who've done it and have done it very well. So as you said, TJ is very successful and Andy's been very successful, and the like, so it's nice to bounce ideas off them, I suppose, and how they've managed playing into county football and running a business at the same time. So it's interesting to talk to those guys.
It's funny, Sam, I'd imagine that the days are still long. You're talking 13-14 hour days in the gym, but it's different from construction. You're not going home completely wrecked. I guess you have some control over the toll it's having on your body, and you can kind of filter it into your own game as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's tough at times, absolutely, especially when I started off first. I was on my own. It's great now I have two lads with me there that are helping me run the show, which is nice. But look, there's lots of early mornings and late evenings. You're starting first classes at 6 a.m, so you're up from 5, and it can be tough if you're coming home from training late that night, the night before or whatever. But look, as I said, it's great to have, I've got the business to a stage now where I can have a bit of help and afford to pay those lads to come in and give me a little bit of relief when I need it or whatever.
So here's the plug. Where is it if anybody wants?
Honest Voice, Samurai Fitness. Definitely check it out if they're interested. Yeah,
you're busy on Instagram giving them good advice too.
Yeah, absolutely. Flat out Instagram and blogging, I think they call it now.
How's the football season going for you so far? The glamour of the O'Byrne Cup, but it's actually started pretty well for you guys.
It started pretty well. I suppose 2 wins on the bounce. Last year I think it took us till our 5th game to win, so I suppose that monkey off the back already has been nice. A little bit of pressure off, I suppose, getting a win early. So for me it's been, I was packing my bag Saturday night before heading to Kildare, and I was kind of thinking, what do I actually need here? I haven't played since October. I was carrying a few injuries and stuff, so had a few injections last year, and so just trying to get everything cleared up. So it was nice to, I suppose, go back and play Saturday there, which was great for the first time in a while.
Louth opted not to play the semi-final against Wexford. I know Wexford were probably quite keen to play it, but you have so many guys in Sigerson, it nearly makes sense, given that you're already into the semi-finals of the World Cup, not to play.
Yeah, I suppose winning the last 2 matches took a little bit of pressure off, and already through to the semi-final. And then look, it's probably just a madness time-wise and logistically to get lads out of work on the Wednesday. You're travelling down to Wexford, you're playing at 8 o'clock that night, you're probably not home till 1:30, 2 o'clock, and for me I'd have to be up and work at 6 a.m. the next morning. So for stuff like that, it just didn't make sense. And then obviously you have the other side of the lads playing Sigerson and stuff like that. So look, it just didn't make sense, and thankfully we're already through. It's just taking pressure off, not having to play the match.
How are you playing yourself? How do you gauge whether or not you're playing well? What are your own kind of things that make you think, okay, I'm at it?
I probably wasn't at the weekend, as I said. It's been a couple of months, so I was a bit rusty the weekend. So look, I suppose for me it's just setting standards for myself. Turnovers, simple things like that get you into the game. Is your first touch good? I suppose a lot of people probably think of, can they score points or can they score goals, but I think when you chase those you probably get a little bit selfish, or the team doesn't come first then. So I think it's important to set standards that are helping the team. So for me it's chasing, do I have 3 turnovers?
Were you always like this, or is this part of being captain?
No, I think it was always like that. I suppose from an early age, maybe 18, 19, I probably was the other way in terms of always chasing, am I going to be the top scorer today or whatever like that. So no, it's from then, I suppose, a couple of years now, it's probably trying to chase other things. Can I get a mark in midfield, or help get 3 or 4 turnovers, or stuff like that. So I think it's important maybe to set standards that way in terms of what maybe other people are looking at. Yeah,
it's funny, we had David Tubridy on the show during the week, Sam, and like he was talking about the National League goal scoring or point scoring record he has, and maybe appreciating it more when he's retired. Like, is that something that you think down the line you'd like to keep racking up the points, because it will mean something to you one day?
Maybe one day, yeah. For David, it's absolutely incredible, and the stat is pretty impressive. So maybe one day, but at the minute, no, I haven't. I don't even know. I haven't checked it. Don't know what the tally is or anything. So no, look, maybe one day, and I suppose definitely is probably special for David now since he's hung up the boots.
Mickey Hart's had a serious impact with yourselves since he took over. I mean, a couple of promotions, and like Division 2 football, especially the chance to play against the Dubs this year is a real card on the stick.
Yeah, absolutely. We've put ourselves in a brilliant position, I suppose, over the last 2 years. I suppose we trained hard. We've put a lot of things in place outside of the training pitch, and even in terms of what we do, our centre of excellence, everything's improved and gone up a level. So it's been impressive what the lads have brought to it, and it's been absolutely incredible for me personally and the team to get to see what it's like to play at that high level, and the standards that's expected of you from the likes of Mickey Hart and what they've done over the last number of years. So it's been a really brilliant journey so far, but look, I suppose this can only be the start of it. We don't want to go back down to Division 3 or 4 again, so it's about setting standards now, and I suppose staying there and improving on it again.
We've obviously talked a lot on this show about the championship structures, but one of the knock-on impacts is that Division 2 of the league is going to be ridiculously competitive, and the prize is playing in Sam Maguire. And the corresponding side of that is that if you go down, then Sam Maguire is really, really difficult to get into. So all of a sudden these games are literally the be-all and end-all of the first part of the season, and then after that, whatever happens in Leinster happens, and then after that the championship happens.
Yeah, there's a lot of games, which is brilliant, but yeah, it's going to be tough. There's a lot of big games in that Division 2, I think, for everyone. It's going to be seriously competitive. You have Derry, Kildare, Dublin, like there's some massive teams in there that will obviously trying to get out of division, and then for a lot of teams maybe it's trying to stay in that division, because as I said, it's going to be very, very tough to pick up points. But look, we'll give it a crack, and hopefully.
Is that like, what's that like? Because that's all of a sudden these games really, really, really matter. In a way that the league games always really mattered for teams, particularly in Division 4, because you were trying to get into 3, and then 3 is like, okay, these games really matter because we're trying to get into 2, and it's but now it's like proper championship fever to the league, which is kind of what we always wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Mickey Hart actually spoke about that during the week, saying that the league is like a championship now. I suppose over the last number of years it's massively important for us to get out of divisions and climb up the ladder, but now it's even more important, as you said, to be in that Sam Maguire is going to be massive for us as a county to improve. So yeah, there's a lot of pressure on those games, I suppose. So
do you feel, Sam, is there a level of disrespect afforded to counties like Louth? Sometimes Louth in past few years have been lumped into the so-called weaker counties bracket, which in many ways is a backslap to those counties, because clearly I don't know where you can come and win a Division 4, win a Division 3 title, and all of a sudden you're mixing it with the big guys. So is there sometimes a level of disrespect afforded to some of the counties, especially in Leinster? Maybe the counties outside Dublin and Kildare maybe don't get the attention that maybe they deserve?
I suppose so, look, but at the end of the day, maybe they're right. I suppose we haven't done anything to warrant being called a big county, or same like maybe outside Dublin, no one's won Leinster in the last 10, 12 odd years, so you can't be claiming to be a big county, I suppose. So it's up to us and the other counties in Leinster to, I suppose, raise the standards. I know we spoke about it before, trying to chase down Dublin and stuff, so I suppose it's up to us, and you can't whinge about it or complain about being called a weaker county if you're not mixing it with the big boys. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if we can do it this year.
There's something nice about that, even having silverware, not talking about reflecting on the end of a career, but when you win a Division 3 title in Croke Park with your county, that must mean so much, especially to people in Louth, because I know they love their football, and clearly it's led to different things as well. I mean, Louth are creating a culture, they've got a centre of excellence and pitch that they're trying to develop as well, so there's a lot of things going on in Louth football, all of them positive.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, as I said, it was absolutely massive, I think, for Louth to go to Croke Park last year and pick up a win. I was there in, I think, 2019 when we were bet by Tipperary in the final in Division 3, so I suppose last year it was nice to be back there and get to walk up the steps of the Hogan stand and stuff like that's absolutely special and stuff you dream of. I know it's maybe for other people it's only a Division 3 title, but as you said, to create a culture of actually going to Croke Park and winning matches is so important. So yeah, last year was a massive step for Louth, and as you said, look, it builds into everything that we're trying to do outside the training pitch, as I said, the new stadium coming and stuff like that. So as I said, Louth people love football, and for them to get to go to Croke Park last year and watch us play good football and win a match and get to pick up a trophy was excellent, I think. Yeah.
Did that culture, is that a change, do you think, that you've noticed since you've come into the senior setup? Are you part of that change in a way?
Yeah, I think so. I think everyone has a role to play in it. I suppose it's massively changed since Mickey Hart's come in, and just in terms of everyone maybe pushing in the one direction. I think, look, sometimes maybe some managers didn't get what they asked for, and maybe there was no money there, or X, Y and Z, I don't know. Look, that's probably out of my jurisdiction, but look, I think since Mickey Hart's come in and he's raised the standard and asked questions of Loud, do you want to go there? He is happy being in 3 or 4.
You have confidence in your own ability, right? And that's been clear since you came through to the senior team, but that's great, right?
Yeah.
But if somebody is challenging you then to back that up, then you then have to not just be looking for your 9 points in the game. You actually have to be looking to be the change that reflects well on the team.
Yeah.
And that's the bit I think that might be different from previous iterations, where a great player can come through and actually look after themselves. You know, you can just mind yourself if you want to. And be, but actually Mickey coming in is like, well, what are you going to do for everybody else here, Sam?
Yeah, absolutely.
What's that like?
It's excellent. Look, it's put me in a position to try to be better, to try and make Loud better, and it's absolutely incredible that he's given me that responsibility, I suppose, and ask questions of me. He obviously maybe sees something in what I can do or what the Loud team can do, so I don't think he'd ask us to do those things if he didn't think we could. So it's been,
and then you start to see the knock-on impact of the results.
Yeah, look, it's been special, and I suppose when last year we probably had a poor start to the league, and next minute you've lost a match and you've drawn a match, and the pressure's seriously on then. So for us to turn it around showed serious character, and there's a lot of leaders in that squad there now that have really stepped up when asked. So no, it's been a serious period, I suppose, for Louth over last year.
Funny, I was watching Roy Keane on Tommy Tierney the other night, and he was talking about leadership and captaincy, and he was referencing the fact that there were so many leaders on that Manchester United team throughout the 90s. But what sort of a captain are you? Like, when you got that text or call to be the captain of your county, are you vocal in the dressing room? Is it more of a lead by example kind of thing on the pitch, or how do you approach that role?
I actually don't know. I don't know what the lads would say about me, or it's funny, like I do talk in the dressing room when I feel like something needs to be said, or I try to demand stuff from players that I know can give more, but then again, it is about setting your own standards and looking after yourself and making sure you're training well, or being early. How do you talk to people? Are you saying thanks and please when you're talking to the kit man? Are you picking up the cones after training? I think little things like that make a massive difference, and how people perceive the Louth team going forward is going to be important. So look, things like that are massively important to me, and then again, it's about delivering on the pitch, most importantly. If I can go out and play well and do my job, I think that's probably the most important.
The importance of the provincial championships, or relative loss in I guess interest in them over recent years, has led to some interesting discussions around the calendar. But as a Louth player, do you harbour ambitions of winning realistically the Leinster Championship? How do you see it? I know Louth of course won the Leinster Championship in 2010. We'll not really talk about that. Maybe the record books don't say, maybe say otherwise. But is that something that you can genuinely, I guess, look towards in the next 5, 6, 7 years, whatever it might be? Yeah,
look, I think we have to. For me, I don't want to play for the next 7, 8, 9 years and not be in a provincial final or not have a provincial title when I finish. For me, so it's definitely a target of mine, a goal of mine to win one. So yeah, it's just about making that happen. It's going to be. I'm not saying it's going to be easier. I'm not saying it's going to happen this year or next year. But look, I think it's putting Louth in a position that they can win one. And look, if it means that I retire without one, but we've put my Louth team and this Louth team at the minute have put Louth in a position to maybe go in a few years after that. I think we've played our part in that. So look, it'll be massively important to do that, and I think if we do win one, it'd be unbelievable. I suppose a little bit of redemption for 2010 maybe. Yeah. Jeez, there'll be some party in Louth if that does happen.
Sam, give us some good advice for people who are struggling at the moment with a little bit of motivation in January.
Yeah, we've a few of those. I was speaking to a few in the gym last night. Trying to get back into the routine has been tough, and I think maybe the split in the week last week with the bank holiday and people were lax getting back into it. So I think there was a few of those. So look, I suppose for us at the minute, it's focusing on one thing at a time. So telling our members, look, chase one thing. If that means getting back into the gym 2, 3 times a week, focus on that. Don't be trying to change 100 things at once. I think everyone's probably trying to focus on diet and nutrition and steps and what weights am I lifting, and chasing too many things instead of just chasing one, get back into the routine. And once you start enjoying it again, I think it's massively important and helpful.
What do you say to people who are afraid of the gym culture? Do you know, the mirrors, the grunts, the testosterone flowing around the room? Like some people, I guess, think that is the idea of what a gym is, or maybe is supposed to be, when in fact the reality is probably a lot different. Yeah, absolutely. Look, and for us, my gym is a private training facility. We don't have open people just coming in the whole time. There's no mirrors in the gym, and we chase a no egos kind of culture. So for us, it's been massively important to have that community feel in our gym. So people come in, they're friends, they talk before class, they go for coffee together. We've tried to create that so that it's not that intimidating feel to our gym. And for me, that's so important, because...
Where did you get that idea?
I don't really know. I think we've had a few kind of ask for the mirrors and stuff, and I just think it's, for me, I think to succeed in what I'm trying to do with the business, it's been massively important. The community, in a way, the exercise is secondary.
Or pre-COVID, when you set it up, was it always going to be like that, or did COVID?
No, I think at the time, funnily at the time, it was probably to get through college. Right. A little bit of money, something I enjoyed, and that's what it was. But then look, as I went down the line and I suppose talked to the likes of Andy Moran and X, Y and Z, and then I realised that look, maybe the exercise isn't as important as people think it is. And do they come for the exercise of class, or do they come to chat to their friends and have a social life? And look, we do members events and we go away, we have a night out the odd time and stuff like that. I think that's massively important, and I think if you can find a gym that does that for you and you actually enjoy going to, and you're not sitting down in the evening going, oh, I can't believe I have to go to the gym now. Yeah. Or it's actually make it a little bit of a habit that
it's a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle, I suppose. Yeah. So that's what we tried to create in my gym. So yeah, no, it's worked well, I think, at the minute. So we're trying to drive that massively.
What do you make of Lee Keegan hanging up the boots? Bit of a sad day for Mayo supporters.
Sad day for Mayo, sad day for GAA. I think, what a hell of a footballer. He's been absolutely incredible, colossal for Mayo over the last number of years. He's always showed up when they needed him. I was reading a stat, I think you guys had up this morning, about his goals and points scored over the last number of years in big games has been incredible. So yeah, sad day for GAA and definitely Mayo fans.
Yeah, big game player.
Big game player.
Great for the half forward of the country.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, listen, we wish you the very best of luck with the season. This is going to be a bear pit of a league campaign, so whatever happens, best of luck with it. Thank you. Continued success with the business.
Cheers, thank you.
So if anybody wants any classes, have you any availability?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll squeeze them in.
Yeah, okay, good stuff. Sam Mulroy, ladies and gentlemen, thanks very much. It's 9:34 this morning. OTB AM brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. And we're going to leave you here with some reflections from James Horan. A reminder tomorrow, though, we'll have Republic of Ireland Youth International Cristiano Fitzgerald on the show. Fresh from signing his first senior contract with Boa Vista. More football chat and plenty more besides. Enjoy, have a terrific Tuesday.
We're turning to discuss Lee Keegan, who at the age of 33 has announced his retirement from inter-county football. He was the Footballer of the Year in 2016. As we mentioned there in the news round, nominated as Footballer of the Year in 2013 and 2021 as well. 140 appearances for Mayo. It puts him 5th on the all-time list for Mayo. He scored 871 across those 140 appearances, played in 6 All-Ireland finals, 7 if you include replays, managed 5 All-Stars, 7 Connacht titles, a National League in 2019 as well. And he will continue to represent Westport, but cited the commitments to both young family and inter-county as being difficult to match up. Very happy to say Mr. James Horan is live on the line, manager from 2011 to 14 and then 18 to 22. So James, you saw Lee Keegan at very close quarters right across a decade. The tributes have been fulsome across the day. We're talking about very, very special player here.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. A terrific player, a terrific guy, I suppose, would be my take on it. But yeah, you listed out all the things there. His level of consistency, level of performance over 12 years was outrageous, really. And just an all-round brilliant player and an all-round brilliant guy. Very humble, honest, straight type of guy who wouldn't have maybe said much around the place, but how he led by deed was phenomenal. And I was lucky enough to get to work with him for a while. So yeah, brilliant memories of a brilliant player.
The thing about those deeds, you say led by deeds, was there was a consistency, as the numbers there suggest, and yet there was also a massive doing it on the big day mentality. We were just making the point before you came on that across his 67 championship games, he scored 748. So he's averaging over a point a game across his career as a defender. But if you take 3 of those 7 goals, all come against Dublin in the 2016 All-Ireland final replay, the 2017 All-Ireland final, and the 2019 All-Ireland semi-final. And frankly, some of his best days, and the numbers don't capture it fully, some of his best days are on the biggest days.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, his level of consistency was brilliant. But on the big days, Lee's mentality, that was one of his many attributes, I suppose. Mentally very, very strong, and the bigger, the better. The better the player is on, the better for him. It just his mindset. He wanted to dominate the guy who's on, dominate the occasion or dominate the game. It's where he got to with his game, how he developed, and the confidence he built over time. He just became a phenomenal player. And you're talking about those scores there. In a lot of those games, he was put on the best opposition player. One of the most dangerous forwards. He would have been invariably on them. So in numerous occasions, he was outscoring the forward he was marking, if you like, while never ever shirking the defensive responsibilities. So his game evolved to be Lee looked at the game very simply. It was very sort of black and white. Here's the job. Here's what I'm going to do. But he evolved his game and learned an awful lot about the game to become a very positionally astute player. Those runs that everyone knows him for and became a huge identity of the team at the time. Those powerful runs from the back, a lot of those were timed brilliantly. And over the last today you've probably seen loads of clips on Twitter of goals against Dublin, but the timing of his runs, the pop from Andy, or the pop from Ger Shane, again in All-Ireland finals, for him to get on the shoulder. So his timing became very, very clever and very good, and got better and better at that. So his scoring stats kept increasing. But to get the balance right was what he could do was very, very impressive.
Well, for sure. And again, so many different great stats from his career come up. To your point, Diarmuid Connolly and Keegan, maybe both at the respective peaks of their power, marked each other 5 times, and they both ended up with 1-4 across those 5 meetings. It's just kind of like an amazing win for Keegan against one of the great players in Connolly. When you say that he evolved as a player and developed his positional sense and would time these runs, is that something that just, slowly but surely through experience he just got better at? Or how does one work on knowing how to time those runs?
Look, when you're playing as many top-level games as Lee did against the top players, and he played with a very good half-back line on the Mayo team as well, with Colm Boyle, Donny Vaughan, Keith Higgins, who were all really, really powerful runners as well. So they did a lot of work together to who goes, on what time they go, and who stays, etc.
Right.
And I suppose based on Lee's scoring rate, is a very, very accurate kicker of the ball. So based on score rate, he'd more often invariably go while someone would hold. But look, a lot of guys. One of the things about Lee, and there's a lot of plaudits about his game and on the field, but his mindset and the type of character he was, he just wanted to learn. He just wanted to get better. He was as coachable a guy as you could ever come across, which is powerful. This guy has, all-stars all over the place and widely acclaimed, but he just wanted to learn the game, loved the game, loved the contest, and just wanted to get better and better. So worked with a lot of coaches down through the years with Mayo to improve those little things, where you stand for breaking ball, how you use your body, when to turn, when to spin, when to go, all those kind of things. He loved that, so that he could be better on game day. So
the student of the game as well as having a straightforward attitude to it. In the Irish Examiner today, Maurice Brosnan was writing a tribute, and he said Lee Keegan had 4 surgeries in 3 years and looked finished against Dublin in 2019 after a tough day against Con O'Callaghan. He responded, though, by building a home gym and went to work during lockdown, came back for 3 more incredible seasons, man of the match on Con in 2021, won an All-Star and was nominated for another in 2022. So physically and in terms of dealing with injury, I suspect this guy played through pain we didn't realise half the time.
Yeah, and to boot on that, Joe, he changed positions as well, from the sort of flying wing back to a cornerback, which can be a much more difficult position, But yeah, that's fairly typical of Lee. Just work, getting better, the grind. Love the grind. Absolutely love the grind, and I suppose the pain associated with that. Just love to get to push himself to the limits. He's one of those guys and that pushes himself above the sort of human safety valve. The safety level where most people play, or a lot of people play. He could just empty, go into that dead zone more often than not. So hugely courageous that way. But like, to play like that and to have the level of consistency he had, you have to prepare, and you just have to do stuff every day to be at that level, and Lee would love that, the discipline of that preparation. So that fed into his mindset and to make him the player that he was.
So you as a manager, you have these various players, these chess pieces, and you have to figure out how to best utilise everybody and how to make it all work. Keegan's quite an interesting case in that he can literally do everything. So there's a certain pressure on you to get the best out of him and to allow his full array of talents to shine. It sounds there like you pretty much chalked him up to take care of their best player, and you chalked him up to be the more likely of the halfbacks to run. So this kind of dream scenario for you, but give us your thoughts on how you use Keegan in these bigger days.
Yeah, well, I suppose there's a lot of brilliant players around that have specific skill sets. Some might be very aerobic, some might have good skill set, some might be fast, some might be great tacklers. All that kind of stuff. Yeah. To get a guy like Lee that's all those things, is unique for sure. So, you know, as I mentioned earlier, the half back line we had 2011, coming through 2011 to 2012, where Lee really kicked off in 2012. I suppose you were beginning to see the type of skill set they had. So like as I said, he's very accurate, very good foot passer, very strong in the tackle. So we tried to set up as a team, I suppose, to maximise the skills of all the players that we have. You know, as I said, we had a very mobile half back line, so we tried to utilise that. And I suppose as we did, you know, Lee came more and more to the fore in that because of the skill set that he has. So when you start to see that, you start to, you know, when it's effective, you start to use that more and more. And for each score that Lee got, you got to remember that there's someone else that was covering off or checking off or freeing him up to do that run. So it really became part of the team and part of the, as I said, the identity of that team around that time. You know, so look, Lee had a huge part to play in that. So again, it's how do we set up to give ourselves the best chance to win? Give ourselves the best chance to win. How can we maximise Lee and some of the skill sets that we have in other players? So it evolved over time as he got stronger and stronger.
Yeah, was akin to the pain point. Was there a fitness test in late 2011 that sticks in your memory?
Yeah, we must have touched on that before. Yeah. Well, I suppose Lee was breaking through in 2011. You know, we had an idea this guy was going to play a couple of years under 21, didn't play minor. You know, sort of rugby was his main game, and he played a bit of football on the side. It was that sort of when we got him in 2011, you knew there was something going on here, and he came on against Kerry in 2011. Got one of his first slicers, you know, from outside 40 yards, as he does. But later that year, I suppose we had a fitness test in prep for the following year, just to get ready to get the programs, you know, specific for players. And just remember, he came that day. We did it in Brafey House, and he came that day, and there was just something about him. There was an air about him that this guy was ready to take off. You know, he got a taste of it in the Kerry game and some of the league games earlier on, but he just wanted, this is what he wanted. He wanted to be the strongest and the best at this, and there was nothing that was going to stop him. And I just remember it was a fairly straightforward bleep test and some agility test, but he just emptied himself with everything that's that you can in your body, and the place shook that day with what Lee, the effort that he put in, and it was just his way of saying there's a new year coming. We're going to shake this place up, and he just that was the day he really started to lead, and he led for the following decade, really, you know.
It's funny, we were chatting about him and somebody sent a text in saying, lads, can he be regarded as great if he hasn't won an All-Ireland? And the fairly emphatic answer here in studio was, well, absolutely, of course he can. I'm going to tempt you into a conversation now, and it's the type of conversation you hate because it's just pure hot air, right? So go with me.
Humour you, Joe, go on.
Humour me on a quiet January. So on this Mayo bunch, say, of the last decade, and you're obviously... you really got the ball rolling and set things up and came back towards the end. But right across that decade, you were watching at close quarters as well as being involved. And so, would you regard? Do you chalk up, now that there's a bit of distance, that Mayo team for the bulk of the last decade as a great team in terms of their imprint on the GAA landscape, their consistency, the quality of football reach, that they hit levels that surpassed teams who came and maybe won the All Ireland here or there? Would you have those Mayo, because I would really, on a higher pedestal than even other All-Ireland winning teams, and have them in the bracket of one of the great GAA teams? Or for you, is it as unnuanced and simple as, bottom line, we didn't get it done, you can't call us great?
I suppose my take on it, and it's always been the way I've looked at it, is like, where that team started to where it got to, and then the levels it maintained for such a period of time. is a phenomenal achievement, and to me is the characteristics of a great team and a great bunch of people with huge character. See, I suppose I saw them up close, Joe, and the effort those guys put in to develop and grow, over the course of a decade or more, to get better and better and improve. And to play at the level of performance against, invariably ended up playing against probably one of the greatest teams of all time, and played consistently well. And that to me is a phenomenal achievement. Sign of great players and a great team. Of course, it would have been nice for sure. But definitely for me, that rate of development, if you look at that from a coaching point of view, just the rate of development and their application to try and learn and grow and develop and test themselves and push themselves, that to me is a serious team.
Yeah, it's a pity it was never done once, just because it's what the players deserved, but also to settle that argument over greatness, because it is, in any pub conversation, anyone who wants to take a lesson, who wants view, can say, nah, didn't do it, not great, end of. And it's a difficult point to argue back against too strongly, I suppose, and not one you'd be inclined to argue, I guess.
Next question, Joe.
It is hard. I mean, that's the pity of it, isn't it?
Yeah. Of course, it would have been great. You think of the guys that have played. It would have been. Of course, it was. I'm not trying to belittle that at all. It would have been great. It didn't happen. If you talk to Lee, it'd be we could have done better or should have done better on certain days, all that kind of stuff. So, but that's life, that's sport.
Yeah. But I'm still sensing a deep satisfaction there and a certain comfort with saying, yeah, I'll allow us to be called great. If you want to call us great, I'll accept that. Yeah.
No, in my opinion, I know others will shoot that down, but certainly in my opinion, working with those guys and their improvement for me was a massive achievement.
Listen, great to have you on and to pay tribute to Lee. I don't. When are you announcing your return as off the ball Lee GAA pundit? I know you're incredibly expensive, but we can make something work.
Look, I don't want to say anything, Joe. Contracts and negotiations are ongoing, so let's see how it turns out.
Okay. Your people can talk to our people and vice versa.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Thanks so much. Are you involved with any teams at the moment?
What's that?
Are you involved with any teams at the moment? Are you coaching away on the QT?
Absolutely nothing. Look, I have a serious 4-ball going at the moment. We're trying to develop that. That's about as close to teams I am at the moment.
Okay, well, geez, you want heartache? That'll do it. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Good talk to you, Take care.
James Horan there, Mayo manager, paying tribute to Lee Keegan, who has announced his retirement this afternoon at the age of 33 after an extraordinary career.
OTB AM.
With Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.